Let's get going then. All right, yeah, just give us a bit of the born and raised and kind of like bit of background as when you was a kid.
Okay, born in Livingston, just outside Edinburgh. Raised in Livingston, just outside Edinburgh. And so I've kind of lived here most of till I kind of grew up. So pretty much lived approximately 1 mile from Livingston skatepark. Obviously it wasn't there when I was young, but when my first bike was a kind of, I still don't know to this day what type of bike it was. It was a little red rally. It wasn't a boxer or any of the stuff that you would normally be associated with those kind of rally bikes. So it was a little red bike. And as was the case in those days, it was the Dukes of Hazzard on TV. It was the Fall Guy, all this kind of crazy stunt stuff you'd see on TV, and that's all we did. We kind of jumped our bikes. This was before BMX was a thing. Evel Knievel, obviously, as well. The kid's toy that was on TV, jumping downstairs and all sorts of nonsense. So that's what we did on our bikes. So we had bricks against bits of wood, and just jumped over jumped off them, jumped downstairs, all that kind of stuff.
Usual stuff,
and doing wheelies. I mean, that's just what we did. And it wasn't until, at primary 3, so this probably won't be much to anybody else. So primary 3 is probably I was 6 or 7 years old, third year into school, whatever that means, whatever you are. So I had from this red bike, I got a road bike, a small road bike. So I had this road bike, and by this point, maybe BMX was kind of maybe starting to be seen. So round about a year or so later, I learned how to do wheelies on my road bike. So I just adapted to what I could use at the time. BMX really wasn't that much of a thing, but again, everything on TV was stunts and jumps and and what have you. So.
What about skateboarding? Does the skateboarding boom happen when you got this road bike, or is it yet to happen, or at the same time?
It happened and was maybe dying down a bit. So I wasn't allowed to skateboard because it was too dangerous. So these little little red plastic things, what have you. So I never had one. That's what happened up until. And another thing about Livingston was there was nothing really there. It was like a massive big house and estate. It was a new town, so there was not really much for people to do to start with. So the only thing they really had was potentially play parks in different parts of the town. So for kids, there was maybe a play park, and that was about it. But as it developed in the centre of Livingston doesn't have a kind of city, a town centre as such, because it's all developed housing estates, and it was all designed that the housing estates all joined without crossing roads. So there was lots of underpasses. Stuff. So it was designed so you never had to walk on a road because it was for families and what have you. But in the centre of so Livingston's in a valley as well. So there's a river in the centre, goes right through the centre. So round about the centre, they built things like a trim track, it was called, a kind of little free place you could go down, and it was like exercise area, if you like. And as kids, there was nothing really to do apart from maybe go to a park, or there's maybe woods, or go down to somewhere beside the river where we had this trim track thing. And that's all there was. There was just not much else to do in the town. It was just play with the play park or whatever you had. So it wasn't until, I think, 1981, the skate park was built. I'm sure from memory it was officially opened in 81. I'm sure it was kind of complete in 1980. So again, that was kind of in the centre, beside this trim track, and there was a shopping centre had opened up by this point. And to get to the shopping centre, you had to walk past
the
skate park. So I didn't skate. I didn't ride a BMX or anything there at the time. But again, as kids, you wander past and you go down and start running around. Do you know what kids do in skate parks? They just run up and down the transitions and stuff. So that's what we did. But I do remember when it first opened, because I think it was at the shops with my parents. And as we kind of went past the skate park, it was just full. It was mobbed. and obviously it was skateboarders that were there. No idea who they were. I'm sure I do know, but I can't think who it was at this point in time. But it was mobbed. So I remember being there, and it was absolutely mobbed. And it's the first time I'd really seen this skate park and thought, wow, this is amazing. But that was about as far as it went. All I knew was, we can come down this place and we can run about on our feet. So that was about it. So that was kind of my introduction to the skate park, and that's really all there was to do in Livingston at that point.
No way. So you didn't even see BMX. You saw the skate park first before a BMX even came about, yeah?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Do you know any of the history of Livingston skate park? Like how did that end up coming so late when the skate boom had died away 2 years before, really? So
Kenny Almond, he is the kind of person behind the skate park. He worked for Hewlett Packard, so he spent a lot of time in the US. So he'd been over, and I think he was into skateboarding. So he was over in California quite a bit, and he'd seen the skate parks they had over there. And because Livingston was a new town, they had a Livingston Development Corporation, so you could kind of put ideas forward for what to build in the town. So he approached the council and said, what about a concrete skate park? I've spent quite a bit of time in the US and I've got these amazing, concrete skate parks. It'd be great if we could have something like that here. And I think he contacted the council, spoke to them, pestered them about it, and eventually started to get things moving. So I think Ian Urquhart, this is so well documented elsewhere, and I don't even remember the story off the top of my head, but Ian Urquhart built the skate park in conjunction with Kenny and the council, and I can't remember what year that started, but essentially 1980 it was more or less done. 1981 it was officially opened.
Wow. Yeah, that's unreal. And there was no other concrete skate parks in Scotland?
No. Kelvin Grove had a skate park in Glasgow.
Okay.
No. When it comes to dates, I won't remember. I think it may well have been done in 1979.
Okay.
And from what and they're still there today, but it's been filled in. I think from my understanding is the council, after a couple of years, either thought it was too dangerous or something, so they then just filled it in after a couple of years. I've seen pictures of it. The Glasgow guys will probably be absolutely hating me that I don't have no more details than that, but there was a concrete skate park in Glasgow, and it was only there a few years before it was filled in by the council.
All right, yeah, I've heard that name before. I think I'll see something fairly recent on that. Yeah, pretty interesting. What I didn't know was the Livingston's closer to Edinburgh than it is to Glasgow. I've been there a few times, but I didn't know that. Yeah, I always thought it was next to Glasgow. Weird.
No, well, it's an EH postcode, so that's an Edinburgh postcode.
Okay.
But Edinburgh and Glasgow are 35, 40 miles.
Yeah.
Not either.
Yeah, but still, I still would have thought I'd have known that. Yeah. So that's like a new sort of. They've injected a new world into your little town, right? Because now there's people coming to skate the skate park, and you're seeing new stuff.
Yes.
Is that the first? You saw BMX there first, or you saw BMX on TV, or where did you first see BMX?
I think it must have been in TV. I've got a few, right? So I've got a few memories and put them in years on them and timelines. I'm not 100% sure. So if we forget about the guy I had, there was a guy in my class who got a BMX, a Huffy Pro Thunder, and his brother got a BMX. The two of them got these BMXs. I didn't really know it was called BMX, but so they had these Pro Thunders. So one had magnesium mags and a coaster brake, which was just nuts to me. And another one had gears. It had two gears. Again, that was nuts to me.
Okay, yeah, I've never seen it, yeah.
And they were the first BMXs I saw with a coaster and one had gears. But before that, I have this recollection of, remember the program, there's a few things. So one was Run Around.
Oh, yeah, I know it.
I remember BMX being on that, and I remember it was like a fisheye lens, and the kind of the bikes were going up and kind of doing a really fast, but it just looked amazing with this fisheye lens.
Yeah.
No idea what year that was. The other thing I remember is there's a mongoose. Is it Tinker Juarez?
Yeah, that's the famous footage. Yeah,
I remember seeing that, and I just couldn't get my head around it. And that must have been on the program Magpie.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, same.
And I have no idea what year that was either, but that stuck with me. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yeah, that footage. That's in everyone's, like, our age, is like, that's so deep within everyone's mind. It was like blue sky, concrete park, mag wheels, like, it was everything that you wanted. Yeah.
And he was landing on the camera. That's the other bit.
Yeah, real close. Yeah, amazing. Right? That footage is unreal. Yeah.
So that's the two bits I remember from TV and just thought, wow. And then it was really the guy at school and his brother. When they got their BMXs, they come in with BMX action bike, and then that was it from that point. I knew what BMX was now, and now I can see it, and I now know that. I thought a rally burner wasn't a BMX because it didn't say BMX on it.
Okay. Well, I'll go with the first one. Yeah. But yeah, like so. How did you? What can you remember the mag, the cover of the mag? You remember what issue it was?
Right. So, I meant to look this up. So I know the first one I bought. It was, I think, issue 5. And it was the Jag Championships. Do you know? I don't know. I'd need to see. If I looked at the magazine cover, I'd know straight away. I think it was maybe issue 2 or 3.
I'll send you the covers. See if we can figure out which one it is. But yeah, I was interested to know if you still remembered the cover or not.
Well, I know that. I mean, I used to have every single BMX action bike. I got it from, I think, number 5, and the ones I didn't get before, I got them off somebody else who, again, another guy in my class who got them. So I had every single BMX action bike up until it turned to rad. So I knew every cover, and it wasn't until I was moving house a few years ago I thought, I don't have room for all of this. So I just chucked.
No way.
I chucked all the ones that either wasn't in or didn't mean anything. I just chucked the rest because I thought, I don't have room for this.
Ouch. Oh, amazing. Fuck. Yeah, I would have taken them mags, no problem. And then, so how do you end up getting a BMX? Did you see kids ride the skate park at this point?
No. So, yeah, we started, because we were going down and playing around, and we had bikes. And you know what? Another thing, remember the program called Whiz Kids? It was on a Saturday evening. It was about kids on computers, and they could hack stuff and what have
you. Yeah. And
they'd jump about on bikes. I'm sure they had BMXs as well. So that was my kind of, I want to be like them, because I was right in my ZX Spectrum.
Okay.
So we started just riding around the place on bikes and road bikes and what have you. So we ended up kind of, because we'd maybe be playing at the skate park just on foot, we just started riding our bikes down there. And I've got my first memory of actually riding in the skate park was on my road bike. And I went in from the top of the half pipe, well, kind of roll in, and there was a girl from my class was there roller skating, and her mum gave me a row for going into the skate park.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So that was that was the first thing I remember riding the skate park on a road bike, but it was just going down, rolling around the banks and then falling off as you try and pedal up the banks, because your pedal hits and you just fall over because you just don't realise what you're doing. Unreal.
So, yeah, I guess, was there a roller skate boom happening? That would pin a time to it as well.
Yeah, so I think when it first opened, people would go down. That's where you'd go if you had roller skates.
Okay.
The 4 quad skates and what have you. And if you had your little thin plastic polyprop or whatever it was, you'd be down there. And most people would just kind of be down in the reservoir. You wouldn't really be seeing many people ride the bowls or the half pipes.
Yeah.
But occasionally you'd get proper skateboarders with the big whiteboards coming down and riding the bowl, what have you. But when it first opened and you saw all these skaters, the proper skaters riding the bowl and stuff, it was unbelievable because you hadn't seen that before.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, all the kids are like, we'll go down, we'll do that. But they've got little crappy thin plastic boards and they kind of fall off and then they kind of quickly give that up. So the skate park didn't really it wasn't too busy after that initial opening because kids realised that, they didn't know what they were doing and they were falling off and hurting themselves.
Yeah, you got to invest some time into it, to get anywhere. And what? So when did you get your first BMX, and can you remember where it was from?
Christmas 1982, blue and yellow Falcon Pro Beta, and it was from a shop called West End not West End Cycles, Pedal Power in West Calder. That shop is still there, but it's moved. It's moved location, and it's slightly bigger.
All right.
But that's where I got my first BMX.
And did they have like a bit of a BMX thing going on back then, as it was the boom, or?
Well, see, I didn't pick what I wanted. I just said I wanted a BMX.
Oh, okay.
So my parents for Christmas went into this shop and said, we want a BMX, and he came out with that. I didn't really, it wasn't a big shop, so they wouldn't have had much.
Okay.
So they must have maybe only had 2 or 3, or maybe had a bit of stock in for Christmas, but it wasn't a big shop by any means.
Yeah, okay, no worries. I didn't realise that you lived like actually in Livingston either. That's quite so it's a walking distance, yeah, like.
Oh yeah. It's it's so close. That's why I ended up down there, because it was just to get anywhere you would be going past the skate park.
Yeah, unreal. I just never realised that. I thought you was from like Glasgow or Edinburgh. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But so then, like, what's your next? So as soon as you get a BMX, like, you don't even need to find anywhere to ride because you're living at the skate park. Like, so it's just right there.
Yes.
And who else was riding? Like, who were your riding buddies when you first started going down there on a BMX?
So I think mostly maybe the guys in my class from school. I think must have been initially when we went down. But going down there, that's where you kind of start to meet the people that are there all the time. So we were kids, and there was these big boys who were down there on BMXs. There was Gavin Simpson, who he's one of the first people I remember. He still rides. He still kills it in the half pipe today on a jump bike, not a BMX. Okay. He can get higher now in his 50s on a jump bike than he could on a BMX, and he was good. He was good on a BMX at the time. I need to send you some footage of him.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So him, and then there was Ricky Fleming, who, unbeknown to us, was goofy, but he had such a cool goofy style. I didn't know what goofy was, and you didn't see many goofy people that had a kind of smooth style, but he definitely did. And then
I saw a picture. It was maybe on your Facebook, possibly, of him like blasting a big air out of the big bowl. Like, really good. Like, look, reminded me of Todd Anderson. I was like, wow, look at that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really good, yeah.
And
I'd never heard of him until I watched.
So we'll get on to that, but honestly, some of the riders at the time, they got zero coverage, but they were, in my opinion, better than most, if not a lot, of the UK riders that we were seeing in the magazine.
Yeah, no, that one pick, I was like, and I think there was someone else as well. It might have been Junior. He was right up as well. Yeah, Junior
and Ricky Fleming they ruled the bowl. They were amazing. And they kind of, no one really rode the bowl properly apart from those two. But then again, I know that developed over a certain amount of time. But Junior was the kind of the main really good rider. So he was, I mean, I do remember I was at the skate park with someone from my class. I don't think I had a BMX at the time, or if I did, I didn't have it with me, and he was in my class. And Junior went up and did a 360, a jump, and he just thought, whoa, did you see that? He just spun right round. That's amazing.
Mind blown, yeah.
Sorry.
Go on. And so it was those two, and what there was a couple of others, I guess. There
was loads.
Loads, yeah.
There was loads. They were the two key ones. And Gav Simpson as well. Then we had a lot of people, and they would ride, but it was such a carry on down there. I mean, even if you didn't particularly ride well, the just messing around you used to have down there was hilarious. Like playing TIG. So you'd be, zooming past everybody on the skate park, trying to get away because they were going to TIG you, or all that kind of stuff, and messing around that you used to do there. I mean, I don't know what it's like in other skate parks because it's different because we could just go down there and do that for free anytime.
Yeah.
Whereas other skate parks, obviously, you pay to get in, and you're not going to get away with that kind of stuff. But we used to have absolutely a riot down there, and it was just a free-for-all.
What can you remember, like, how many sort of kids would be there, like, in the BMX boom? Like, if you had to guess.
It was a lot. It was a lot because I remember when I first started going down and just even doing jumps, you were kind of trying to get in, and it was like a line. One person jumps, another person jumps, another person jumps, and then it's like someone snaking you, but you didn't know what snaking was. It was just you were trying to get a bit to go, and there was a lot. If I say 20 or 30, I don't even know if that's a lot, but the skate park was pretty busy.
Banged out, because it was half the size as well, right, to what it is now, or less probably,
That's it.
It? Just a half pipe, the bank at the bottom, and the big bowl, and that was it, right?
That's it, yeah.
Okay. And what did people session? The fly out?
Mostly it was the fly out. That's where most people, everyone kind of went down the reservoir and did the jump, and that was what most people did to start with, at least. And then you start putting your bag down to try and jump over to see if you could get over your bag, and then all that kind of stuff.
Oh, nice. And like, so as the years progress, like when do you start learning to ride that bowl? Like I guess there's no one up there has built a quarter pipe because there's a concrete skate park, like free, that everyone can use all the time. So it's really weird, this one, because most people have to build something themselves. Yeah.
I'm trying to think how we even started to learn airs. And I can't actually remember. I'm trying to think back to my pictures. So probably, let's say, 1983, if you go down the skate park, it was mostly just doing jumps and stuff. And I think, I'm trying to go by my pictures, it was maybe 83, it'd be late 83, started doing aerials, started doing airs. But even then, as I say that, I'm thinking it wasn't in the bowl, but I've got pictures of me in the bowl as well, maybe after a year or so, maybe into end of 83 into 84. I've got me doing an air in the bowl, my Marks and Spencer's jumper, and a big white MD8S helmet with some specs on, looking completely out of place. But yes, I can't remember essentially, but I think it must have been within months of being down there. We started to kind of do 180s and try. I do remember trying to get out the top, but we maybe start at the bottom of the half pipe where it's not particularly steep, and you kind of go up and kind of almost wheelie kick turn type thing as you look at your back wheel to see if it's out.
Yeah, that's it.
And kind of develop from there.
And then was that like who was you looking at, like other guys in the mags for like how to ride, or was there people that early there that was as good as the mags, and you just could look at them?
It was, well, you just copy what people were doing down there, but everyone was copying the magazines. And the weird thing is, as you probably will know, what you think you see in the magazines isn't really necessarily what actually happened. So I remember there's this kid, Craig Mcnicholl, and we used to just mess around and so Livingston, as I said, it's full of play parks and stuff. So there's lots of banks and what have you. So even if you weren't down at the skate park, you could just, essentially it was street. Yeah. But that's just what you did. So I remember there was the BMX action bike with I think it was Craig Campbell, the one in the dark and the bowls and what have you.
Dark side of the bowls, Yeah.
So there's one he's doing a one-handed air, I think. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
So Craig went up and just did this jump and just took his hand off like that and then landed like that. He's like, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think you're meant to get your hand back on before you land though." "Are you?" "Yeah, I think so."
Well, he rode away with his hand off?
Yeah.
No way.
But, I mean, that's what you did. You think that's what they're doing. So, that looks good. I'll try that.
Wow.
It's what you saw in the magazines and then what other people were doing down the skate park. So there was a lot of airs. I can't remember the first time I saw 360s, but Junior was doing 360s quite early. And then by that point, I guess on TV, Andy Ruffles, they're doing 360s over everything and anything people, and then Ready Break adverts doing 360. So I guess, in fact, it had been in the magazines as well, no doubt. Starting to do airs and stuff. I guess if it was in a magazine, we'd all be trying to copy it.
Yeah, okay. And because, like you say, things are kind of moving on now, and it's becoming, you're seeing BMX more in the sort of on the TV, and like it's popping up on it, so easier to sort of see what's going on. And what was the earliest event that you went to?
Right, so I had this Falcon Pro till 283. I think Christmas '84. I got a DP Firebird.
Okay.
So I slowly destroyed the Falcon, bent the forks, knackered the back wheel, that kind of stuff. So bit by bit, it was getting replaced anyway. So I got a DP Freestyler, Christmas '84. There was a competition in Meadowbank in Edinburgh, and it was at some point, maybe the start of '85. It was called the Scottish Masters, and Craig Campbell come up for that. Nick Jeffries come up for that. I think Paul Hudson was up for that as well.
Okay,
the Skyway that was the Skyway team before they split for the Pro Light thing. And I think there was maybe a couple of Torker guys come up for it as well. So that was a kind of. So I was supposed to. I went to that with my bike with the full intention of riding at that. And I said to Brian Henderson, who was kind of there helping organise, and it says, said, I'll get you to compete or what have you. So I left it over to him. And then I was there all ready to go on, and then they never called my name. So that was my first competition. I was meant to ride, but I didn't ride it because they didn't call my name.
Was that? Is that the one that was indoor, or is that the one that was outside?
No, it was indoors. It was indoors.
Okay.
So that was the first time I'd seen proper pros. I say that, I'm trying to think when the Eddie Fuller World Tour was.
85, I think. 85
so
over
it
here.
Was before that. It was
Summer 85, yeah.
Yes, that's the first time I saw pros, if you like, then. Was at that competition, but I didn't ride. The first time I rode a competition, Brian Henderson, who ran the local BMX club, he was running a minibus down to Dumfries for a competition. Right. So I went down to that with my mum came with me because I must have been 12 years old or what have you. So I went down to this competition in Dumfries, and I competed there. And that's the first time I met someone called Paul Robertson, who's from Aberdeen.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So I was there with my mum, and Paul was there with his mum and dad. So we met, and my mum met his mum and dad, and everyone had a great time. But that's the first time I met him. And I competed there. It was the under 13 groups or whatever it was at the time. So I was riding against Paul. There was a local rider called Matthew Burns, I think. So that's the only three people I really remember there. And I won that, my first competition. So that was me. That was me like, oh, well.
I thought you were going to say you won, yeah.
So that was me. I like this competition thing. So.
All right. Was that the first time you'd ridden a quarter pipe? Was it these contests, or had you ridden one before? Okay.
No. Well, no. Right. So it's the first time I'd ridden. It's not the first time I rode a quarter pipe. So maybe around about 84, a BMX track was built across from the skate park.
Okay.
Now, everyone was all excited about this BMX track, but I wasn't that fussed because I'd rather ride in the skate park. But for whatever reason, there was a quarter pipe that was put at the finish line in this BMX track. Don't know why. Can't remember why it was there, but it was lethal. It had about 3 foot transition and 6 feet of air. It was.
Quarter pipe. Yeah.
I can't remember why, but I then started to ride this quarter pipe. I don't know why. Maybe the skate park started to get busy with skateboards. I don't know. I somehow started to ride this quarter pipe over at the BMX track and learned to ride it because it was ridiculously, nobody could ride it. So I managed to get a couple of feet out of it maybe. And one thing I do remember, I tried 1 foot airs on that quarter pipe for the first time and didn't realise, I didn't hold the back brake when I took my foot off. So I took my foot off, the pedal dropped, and then I just landed flat bottom from this ridiculously vert quarter pipe straight onto the 1 foot, and it just forced my foot, all the way back.
Oh yeah.
That I don't know what damage it did, but it was sore for a very long time.
All right.
So that's when I learned maybe try and pull your brakes when you take your limbs off. Again, you didn't realise most of the people you see doing these things.
The mechanics of it, yeah. At that point, people were pulling the brake, yeah.
So that was the first time I rode a quarter pipe. So I went down to this competition in Dumfries, Nithsdale BMX Club. They had these 2 quarter pipes, and as soon as I got into the hall, I looked at them and I thought, those quarter pipes are absolutely tiny. They must have been maybe 6 foot tall at the top, at the most. They weren't big, and they didn't have any vert. It was just transition to level. Yeah. So I could ride them, but I just didn't think they weren't very big for me. So I wasn't intimidated. If anything, I was trying to get as high as I could without hooking up because they weren't particularly big.
All right, I wondered about that. Yeah, like if you ever hit a quarter pipe before going to a contest, because interesting. So how high did you get out of them quarter pipes? Is that if you was like, so there was 6'6", I think was the measurement out of the mags back then for a little quarter pipe. It was 5 foot wide and 6'6" high. I think that was the measurement because we built a couple. Yeah. How high do you think you could get out of them at the time? Like 2 or 3 foot or something?
I've got video footage from not that particular competition, but a couple of competitions later. So it's the same quarter pipes in the same place, maybe 3 feet.
So that's pretty good though for then, isn't it? Like,
yeah. Well, you think you're getting massive
for a 12-year-old kid, like that's good going, man.
So I've got footage from that, airing those things. So I can say that, but it was about 3 feet, I think. It wasn't huge.
Okay. And then what happens after that? You go back to the skate park. Do you get like when you saw them pros ride? Did that give you like a boost? Was that, or was you just like indifferent about it?
Well, the thing is, when you see these people ride and do stuff, you see them physically do it, then you think, well, I want to do that. So you just try and copy it. So I'm trying to think the things we learned. So Craig, there was a picture. I remember Craig Campbell doing a one hand, 1 foot, or maybe holding his peak or something. So like, well, I'm going to do that. So you then start trying to copy that. So I've got a picture of me doing a 1 hand, 1 foot, holding the peak, not looking at the camera or anything, just kind of holding the peak. So it's just kind of progressing based on what you saw. Most of the stuff then was, at tabletop, it's 1 foot tabletop, it's 1 hand, 1 foot. And if you were really good, you'd maybe try some kind of look back. And I think that was really your air variations at that point. There wasn't really much else happening.
An X up possibly.
An X up, yeah.
And that was most of it pretty much done, wasn't it? No footers came a little bit later. Yeah.
Yes.
And so was there like a Scottish contest series for BMX? Like Brian Henderson, he had a major part in like early Scottish BMX, right? Yeah,
everything I did in the 80s was involved Brian. He was behind all of it. So for 85, all I did was ride Scottish competitions. It was like a series of, it's just like a UKBFA now, but it was a Scottish series at that point. So we had competitions in Dumfries, I remember Perth, Glenrothes, Inverness, Aberdeen. So there was competitions all over the place. And that's how you kind of get to meet all the Scottish riders, because there was either a competition in your area or they knew about it and they travelled there. Yeah. So practically every Scottish rider I got to know, it was through competitions.
All
And
right.
Brian Henderson was the key person behind those competitions. And there was other key ones like, people's dads up in maybe Aberdeen, Inverness, and down in Dumfries. There was riders and their dads were involved in that. So it was just kind of almost building a network of Scottish riders and their parents to do competitions and BMX clubs and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So it was the what was it called?
I think it was just
Scottish Freestyle Association or something.
I think it was. I mean, there was T-shirts that were printed off. It just said Scottish Freestyle. That was it.
Okay.
But I think maybe 86 or 87. It was Brian kind of classed it SBFA because it had the UK BFA. So he was just kind of trying to make it fit into that. So that was so. Brian was kind of the key person in the Scottish freestyle. There was other ones, like I can't think of any names, but there's a guy that did the Scotia BMX shop in Edinburgh.
Yeah, that's it. I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, there was a lot, and they were involved in racing. So
there
was a lot of racing organisation as well from the Scotia side. Brian Reid, it was Brian Reid. I know it was Brian Reid. And there's George Swanson. There's various other ones as well. But I never raced, but you kind of got to know these people because there was the race scene. And because there was a BMX track across from the skate park, then if there was a race there, you kind of got all the racers there to come. And then you'd maybe come down the skate park because there was a race on. And the skate park was right there.
Cool. And what the shop was called Scotia, and that was the BMX shop that was in Edinburgh, was it?
Yes, right in the city centre.
They put on some shows or something. I've seen that quarter in a few old pictures.
Oh yeah. So I think it was them that organised that Meadowbank competition, the Masters, where they brought up the Skyway team and stuff. I think they were behind all of that. We saw they brought up Glenn Lewis to do a demo just down the road from the shop. So I went through to see Glenn Lewis. So they were involved in a lot of stuff, mostly racing, but they kind of got into freestyle as it became a bit more popular.
Yeah, all right. I think I've seen maybe the Ruffles and possibly Craig in one of those Scotia sort of quarter pipe air things that they did.
Yeah.
I thought it looked like a demo. It might have been a demo, one of the contests, but yeah. And then what was the shop like? Did you go to the shop that often?
Yeah, well, if I was buying anything, that's generally where you would go. So I think from where we were, it was the only kind of decent BMX shop around from the Edinburgh area. I think there was other ones in Glasgow and what have you, but for us in Livingston, that was the main BMX shop.
Oh, amazing. What was it? Just BMX or normal bikes as well?
I think it was, in my mind, it was all BMX.
Wow. Oh, impressive.
I remember they had a small shop to start with, then they got a bigger shop just down the street from it. But when I went in, it was all BMX because I got a set of Skyway Toughs from there. Now, I was so disappointed. I got these black Skyway Toughs and I got them home and I took them out. And they had plastic hubs. I'm like, they're meant to be metal hubs. These must be rejects or something.
Fakes, yeah. So there was a later version, yeah.
Yeah. They supplied everything. Plastic hubs were the biggest disappointment. I was wanting my shiny chrome, hubs in these tubs.
Yeah, no, I remember those. That was a little bit later. Yeah, that was like the sort of third generation or something. Yeah, I remember. And
when I got those Toughs and I had to go down to the skate park, everyone come up and ask, "What's wrong? Are they Toughs? What are they?"
Oh, excellent. When BMX Action Bike came to Livy, they didn't come just once, did they? Came about 3 or 4 times. Is that right?
They came a few. So you probably saw what I saw, which was right. So when you found out that Eddie Fuel or Mike Dominguez were at the skate park, you knew they were there getting pictures taken. And round about that time, I noticed on whatever the cover was, I noticed there was Ralph Tribe doing Tony McKenzie, maybe. Tony McKenzie.
Yeah, it was Ralph Tribe and Tony McKenzie, yeah.
I think one's done an 8.5 pipe. I remember that and think that's the skate park. I don't know anyone who saw that. and then Robbie Morales doing a kind of
Bob Morales, yeah.
Bob Morales, sorry,
Yeah.
and on the wall.
Yeah,
And I'm
that's it.
like, I don't know anyone that mentioned them ever being there or saw that. I assumed, because we knew Eddie Fiola and Mike Dominguez had been down, they maybe came with them. But I haven't been able to find anyone that can tell me one way or the other.
Oh, really? There's still a mystery, yeah. No way. Because the Ralph Tribe picture, I remember that and being like, whoa, they've gone back to Livy, you know, because they did that thing on Hot Concrete or something, and Tony McKenzie had I think he was either in the half pipe or jumping the hip, maybe. I can't remember which. Oh, no, I had a picture of Dominguez jumping the hip with a full-face helmet on. But, yeah, I thought that they'd been there like a good 3 or 4 times, because I think the Tony McKenzie one was a Haro sport test for action bike, if I remember right. I'll dig them out. I've got them, yeah. But, yeah, so you don't know, you weren't there for any of them. The first one you heard about and thought it was bullshit, right? So I saw that on the Neal's interview he did. I thought that was pretty funny, yeah.
Well, the thing is, I'm looking. So, do you know the center pages of Action Bike with Dominguez doing that air with no helmet? If you look at that picture, there's 2 kids in the background on the wall. Okay, that's Joe and that's Jerry. They're the 2 kids. They're the 2 kids that told me, like half an hour later, Mike Dominguez and Eddie Fiola are down the skate park, and I said, no, they're not.
Yeah, no chance. Yeah, I remember seeing those pictures, and it just looked unreal. Like this new skate park that no one had seen, like who rode BMX whatsoever, unless you was like you guys and you lived up there, you know. And it just looked so good, and they gave it such a good praise. And they said the skaters were gnarly, and they wouldn't let you ride if you was basically not Mike Dominguez or Eddie Fiola, really. So it had like good mystique to it as well, you know.
Well, that was true as well. So I've got the center page picture. I have that picture with that, not from the magazine. I have it from
the actual picture. Okay.
Yeah. So I've got that blown up to an A0 poster. I was going to have it framed and put behind me here, but I've not had a chance to do that yet. But it's from an original print from that photo. But if I send that through, you'll see these 2 kids in the background, and they are the 2 kids that told me.
Oh, so good. Yeah, because that was like on the Kellogg's tour, wasn't it? When they was over for the Kellogg's, I interviewed TLB. He was telling me a bit about it. Yeah. There was also something else at Livy that I just flashed past my memory, and I can't remember what it was. Yeah, I can't remember. But there was something else Livingston related as well that came from that era of time. So yeah, it was Duncan Fraser. He had a picture taken by TLB at that point in time, right? So he must know a little bit of info about this stuff.
Yeah. So because that wasn't the same issue as the.
No, I think that might be a Hot Concrete issue. Yeah.
So I know the picture. I can remember the picture, but I just can't remember who else was there. Was that Neal Ruffle and Craig Campbell? Maybe. Can't remember.
I can't. Yeah, I can't recall what one it was. If I think back, I think it looks like he's dressed quite wintry, and some of the other pics were like real, like summertime, you know.
Yeah, so, you're right. But I do remember I was there when that picture was taken, and that was the key thing, because whatever riders were there, English riders, that's why TLB was there, and it was a big thing. Go Junior, go do some air, show them how it's done, kind of thing. Yeah. So that was a big thing, that Junior's getting his picture taken by TLB, because he was a Scottish rider. He didn't really have any Scottish riders getting pictures, any kind of coverage. So that was a big deal. The fact that they were photographing, I can't even speak, Junior, our local, because again, from our opinion, they were just as good as these pros.
That's right. Yeah,
he's getting his picture taken, and then it was in the magazine as well.
Oh, awesome. I wonder if there's. Do you know? Have you looked into the RAD archive and seen if there's any more pictures from Livy?
No.
Okay.
I've seen some. I've not had a chance to properly kind of get involved. The one in the centre, there was a photo exhibition about the skate park a couple of years ago. They had up in Livingston, and that's how I knew this A0 print was available, because it'd been printed for an exhibition and it was never used, so it was there and never used. So I said, I'll buy it.
Cool.
So I haven't looked into other ones. I know Grant's been involved and had a look at stuff, and he showed me some of the pictures, but I've not really kind of delved into it myself. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, I'll be interested to know whether there's some more of that. Because that archive seems like it's got untold treasures in it.
Yeah.
So you didn't see any of it. So it was like your most local of local skate parks, and you missed those days. And where did you go? Like, so around this time, are you coming out of Scotland to ride, or are you just primarily staying there?
85. The furthest I got was Dumfries, which is the very first competition I entered. So that's kind of down in the Borders region. So it's nearly England, but it's not England. So in 85, that's as far as I got. But I entered, I still don't know why I decided to enter, but I entered the whole shot in 85.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
So Brian Henderson, I think he was the first one in 84. And I think he must have taken, I don't know if he had a bus or what it was, but I wasn't at it. But I just heard tales of these no-foot airs that Neal Ruffle was doing. How can you take your feet off without sitting down? I just couldn't get my head around it. So, but that was the key thing I heard from whole shot from 84. So 85, because I was competing, Brian was taking another bus down full of Scottish people. So for some reason I thought, I'm going to enter that. So I entered, that's the first time I entered a kind of English competition, if you like. Okay. That was December 85, I think that was. December was,
yeah.
I think it's always December.
Always December, yeah. And how was that, coming to London to ride? You've been to London before that, or no?
No, I hadn't been. I hadn't been anywhere. So yeah, I mean, it was.
Who else was there as well? Who was in this bus? Yeah.
I think every Scottish rider that I knew was on this bus. I think it was a double-decker coach, if I remember correctly. Do you know the ones you kind of...
Yeah.
So I just remember a couple of the locals were at the front of the bus with a carry-out. So they just sat, at the front of the bus getting absolutely drunk. And that was general. Like, it was just chaos on the bus the whole way down. Every whole shot we went on down, it was just chaos on the bus the whole night. You would never get any sleep. So I'm trying to think. So names, it would have been there. So Scott Macdonald from Inverness, he would have been there. Philip Middleton from Aberdeen. Paul Robertson, I can't remember if he would have been on that, but essentially it was from all round Scotland would come down and get this bus to Holshot, is my recollection of it. There was riders from, if I think of all the riders that used to come through at the skate park, all the riders from Glasgow, Troon, Edinburgh way, they would all be in this bus. It was just, you can imagine. Teenagers.
Yeah. Nice. And how was that contest? Was that 85? Was that Wilkinson and Rich Segure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can't remember much about that competition. I'm trying to think. Is that one where Wilkinson was doing 540s for the first time, maybe?
Would have been, yeah.
Because the 540s blew my mind when I first saw that.
So you'd never seen that before?
I can't recall seeing it. I just remember seeing that for the first time and just thought, wow, that's nuts. Okay. So yeah, I think it's probably more focused on me riding. And the thing is, you wouldn't have got much sleep on the way down. Then you're riding and competing, and then you're just kind of exhausted by the end of it. So the key thing, which would have been Rich Segure and Ron Wilkerson, I don't have many memories of that actually. But I just
really?
remember seeing the 540 for the first time, and I thought that was unbelievable.
That went in, yeah. Nice. Yeah, I missed that one, but that's the one where everyone moaned about the quarter pipe. They said that they'd made the quarter pipe too vert, and loads of people struggling with it. Yeah.
Do you know? I do remember one side fell completely under vert, and I do remember one fell over vert. So it was like you're overcompensating one side and hooking up on the other. I do remember that much actually.
Yeah. Did you place at that one?
I got third.
Oh, cool.
So I can't remember what the age groups were. I can't even remember who won or anything. I don't even know if Carlo was there, but I think I was in the age group where I think Carlo or Jamie Morley or somebody was in it. I can't really remember.
All right. Yeah, maybe Jason Lunn. Would you have been in his age group? Maybe
no, I think Jason Lunn was above me. Okay. Because I think, if you remember, I think it was 13 and under, and then it was, so basically if you're 10, 11 or whatever, you're all in that one.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. Oh, that's pretty good then. You got third. And then where did we go for? Oh, so was you riding for a shop? Is this the year that you was on a BMX Beat as well? Or was that the year after?
That was the year after. That was 86.
Okay.
So I think, Brian Henderson had this kind of team, demo team called the Livingston Freestyle Team. So I was on this team. So we had Livingston Freestyle.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. That's what I was looking at the other day. Yeah.
So there was no sponsor. It was just this Livy team that we were on. We just did demos and what have you. And that was the thing.
Well, would you do demos at schools and stuff?
Yeah. Just like gala days, kind of open days, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
We kind of set up a quarter pipe and ride for 15 quid.
Oh, that's probably right then. Who else was on that?
So Duncan Fraser Jr., Ricky Fleming, myself, Gary Henderson. I can't forget Gary Henderson, his son, Brian's son, Gary. So he did the flatland and stuff. So he was on it, and then the first year, I think it was just the four of us. And then the following year in '86, we got Scott Mcnicholl. He was on that team as well.
Okay. When did Scott Mcnicholl, because he became a Livy local as well, right? Was he from somewhere else?
No, he's from Livingston as well.
Okay.
So he was at the same high school as me. He was a couple of years older. So I think we were all competing in '85. Scott didn't start competing till '86, but he maybe wasn't down when I first started going down, but it wasn't long, and he was down there as well all the time.
All right. Yeah, I remember that name from BFA contest and Livy. Yeah. So when did you meet like the other sort of well-known Scottish guys from the early days, like Scott Carroll? Scott Macdonald seemed to have a real presence at one point as well. Later on in the scene, but Scott Macdonald, Scott Carroll, he seemed to come in around this time, right?
Well, the first two people I recall meeting that I'd never met before until competitions were Amos and Andy Burke.
All right.
So I don't know if they were the Paul Robertson I met in that first competition, and there was another one I was at maybe a few weeks later up in Perth, and Andy and Amos Burke were there, and that's the first time I can recall meeting them.
Okay.
And they had this thing. Do you remember the a windbreak or something? You kind of you this flatland thing where you put the side of the bike, the bars are between your legs, and you lean back like that. A leaner or something.
Oh yeah, was it a windsurfer maybe?
Something like that. But I remember the two of them. That was their key thing that I remember about them. Them kind of doing this thing where you're going like.
All right, yeah. I think it was a windsurfer. Yeah.
So they were the first two that I recall meeting in those first two competitions. So that was Amos, Andy. I'm trying to think. Scott Carroll. The first time I recall seeing Scott, it was in a competition in East Kilbride. I'm pretty sure that was '86. For me, you kind of knew the people that could air because from the skate park.
Yeah.
So Scott Carroll came out of nowhere and he could air. Yeah. He could also land flat bottom really hard, really quite good. but he could do all these things and he could do high air. So I was like, whoa, who's this and where's he come from?
Yeah.
So that was, I think it was definitely East Kilbride, because I've got a picture of him doing a no foot one hand.
Okay.
And I was trying to ask, when did Scott Carroll appear? But I can tell from the ceiling on the sports centre in the picture that it was East Kilbride.
All right.
So that's the first time I met him. Who else was there? Scott Macdonald. We used to go up in competitions in Inverness, and his mum would be one of the organisers. So we kind of met from Brian going up to the competitions in Inverness. That's how we met Scott Macdonald and all the riders that were up there. David Gurley was part of that as well.
All right.
So yeah, as you went through competitions to different parts of Scotland, that's where you met all these other riders that were from these areas.
Yeah. Who else was I thinking of? Gary Forsyth. What was it? Was he a Livy local?
No.
Okay.
The first time I remember him was at this Meadowbank competition in Edinburgh. He's one of these characters, and in my head, he just came out of nowhere.
All right.
Because I couldn't understand where the Scottish rider came from, and he wasn't a pro. He was what was below
Master
pro?
class.
Yes.
Masterclass, yeah.
He straight away was masterclass, and I'm like, where did he come from? How did he get straight to me? I think it's just because he rode and he entered this competition in the Masters, so he was masterclass.
All right.
He did start competing in the Scottish competitions. So after that kind of initial, where did he come from? He was there all the time, all the different competitions.
All right.
Him, Michael Riley, used to be the two of them together. And then as Amos obviously was from Glasgow, then you had other riders like Marcus Sent, all kind of riding together because they lived beside each other. And it wasn't until later on you realise that, that they're all kind of local and they all started riding flat together and what have you.
All right. And the other guy I was thinking of was Noel Cowan.
Yeah, so Noel Cowan, he lived up in Neal.
Yeah.
So he was a few miles south of Inverness.
Okay.
So when we were up in Inverness, and I can't remember if Noel Cowan was initially at the competitions we went to in Inverness. He must have been. But he, for me, stood out because he could do flatland and he could do airs. But he's one of the few people I knew that could do the one hand, one foot with the top hand off and the bottom foot down.
Okay.
Like Robertson style. So
yeah.
So he stood out to me for that because I couldn't do that and not many people could as well. But yeah, he was really good at everything. And then Gogo tells me about all these racing trophies and what have you. He was a really good racer as well as a really good freestyler. So Gogo, before I even knew Gogo, he knew exactly who Noel Cowan was. Nothing to do with freestyle, just from racing.
Oh, okay. And what about Gogo? Did he come into it around this time or a bit later on?
Well, he was later on. He was later on. He was in the 90s. For me, anyway.
Really? Yeah. God.
Yeah.
No way. And yeah, like so. How's the scene like? You say that Eddie Fiola and the GT guys came in '85 doing that world tour. I saw them on that world tour as well.
Yeah. So we knew that obviously they'd been at the skate park, and he was doing the world tour, and they were doing a show in Falkirk at the stadium in Falkirk. So he was there with Dave Breed, was it? I think.
Yeah, that's it, Dave Breed. Yeah.
In the kind of red GT with the black gear and what have you. So we all went there and saw that. And then we got an inclination, well, if he's here today doing a show, maybe he'll show up at the skate park.
Yeah.
But the following day, I was at school. So I thought, I'm not staying off school just in case Eddie Fiola shows up. So it turns out he did show up.
Oh, no way.
He showed up, but all these other kids either knew he was going to be there or just thought he might show up. So he showed up, but the skate park was mobbed. So I don't think he actually did much in the way of riding. I think he kind of showed up, didn't do very much, and disappeared again because it was just too busy. Oh,
no way. That's cool that he went, though, like with the intent of riding the skate park. I thought you were just going to say, oh, no, he didn't even bother stopping by. That's fucking cool, man.
No, he definitely went, but there's people who were there, but there's no pictures of anything because he didn't really do anything. He showed up, saw it was busy, and then left again.
Oh, man. Can you remember who the English guys were that he rode with on that demo?
I do. I'm sure it wasn't, and I might be wrong, but I know there's one of the Scotia riders, Paul Mcnicholl. He was doing the show with Eddie Fuel and Dave Breed. He was kind of doing stuff before they came on, and that's all I can remember. I can't remember any other English riders being there. It was just Paul Mcnicholl and maybe some other Scotia riders. Yeah,
they changed. They did change as they went around the country. They had different riders, but yeah, I wondered who did the Scottish part. So like then you kind of creeping into 86, right? So and you're still just like riding the skate park and doing the Livingston freestyle team demos and the sort of Scottish BFA circuit as well.
Yeah, so things started happening in 86. So 86, I started doing the English competitions, so the UK BFA English competitions.
BFA, okay, yeah.
So we started going, when I say we, me, Gary, mostly, his dad just driving us down to these competitions. There may have been a few other riders, I can't remember off the top of my head, but we started doing the UK competitions in 86. So we're doing a lot of driving up and down to England, as well as doing the Scottish competitions. So, I mean, Brian did some silly driving. I cannot remember where we were in England on the Saturday. We drove down somewhere for a competition. It was certainly past Birmingham, I'm sure. The competition was on the Saturday. He drove up overnight. And then on Sunday, we drove up to Inverness for another competition. I mean, it was just, he's nuts. I don't know how he actually did that. And then we're in the back of his van. These days, that wouldn't be allowed. So he had a big, massive white van that he used for his work. He'd just fire us in the back of the van, and it was shut. When you shut the door, you couldn't see anything.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So we're in the back of the van with our bikes. So if something happened, we're in the back of the van. So, but that's just what you did at the time. It was fine.
Yeah, that was the way to travel at one point.
Yeah. So we started doing that. What else happened in 86? So I can't remember if maybe it was later in the year. So myself, someone called Kenny Hunter, and Gary Henderson, we did a demo for Prince Charles, or King Charles now. So I was actually messaged Kenny Hunter to try. I didn't know anything. It was just, you're doing a demo for Prince Charles. So we went and did a demo for Prince Charles, and that's as much as I knew. And this was in 86.
All right.
I think I got the day off school, so I was happy. So I messaged Kenny Hunter. I've got a newspaper clip of that. So I've got a picture of the three of us with Prince Charles. I'll send you that. And I messaged Kenny. I said, "Can you remember why we were doing this? What was the reason Prince Charles was there and we were doing this?" So it turns out, I think, for the Prince's Trust, maybe Kenny used to do a lot of demos and stuff as well. So I think he was maybe presented with some money to build some wood to jump over cars, maybe. And I think Brian maybe got some money to take us all to competitions. So because of that, we did a demo for Prince Charles because he got some money from the Prince's Trust. That's what Kenny tells me. It might be not incorrect and inaccurate, but it sounds good, and I've got no other excuse why we were doing it.
All right, no worries. So the BFA circuit in 86 that's when you must have like established your name as a bit of a name right now. And this is the BMX Beat year as well, right?
Well, yeah. So BMX Beat was done by TV Regions.
Yeah, that's it.
So we were doing a competition down in Dumfries again. So we did the usual kind of age group thing, but then there was another competition as part of the same competition where, because there weren't age groups in BMX Beat, and because it was, well, you know yourself, it used to be you do flatland, you get scored, you do ramps. Yeah. In fact, it wasn't that, it was one run and you got a score. But for BMX Beat, I think you got split. That was the first time you got split. So I could ride ramps and obviously do a bit of flatland. Gary Foley was the group above. Like, he was in an older group and he was really good at flatland, but he couldn't necessarily do ramps. So we were all in the one group, and because I could do the two of them, and his strong point was just flatland, I won it for the Scottish TV region. So
Okay.
Gary Foley was probably a much more professional rider than me, but I won purely because I could do both. So that was, and it was a competition as part of another competition, but it was separate. So because I entered that, I won the Scottish television thing. So I then got invited to BMX Beat.
So it's two separate runs in that contest. One for BMX Beat and one for the contest.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And what was that? What was your BMX Beat experience like? So that was the indoor one, right? Sand Centre. It was one of the Sand Centres ones.
Yes. So I got driven again. I got time off school, so that was a plus. Ryan drove me down to the Crown Hotel in Carlisle or wherever it was, where everybody was staying, and you kind of got put up in this hotel. And I didn't know any of these people really, because I had maybe done some UK competitions, but I didn't really know anybody. So I got taken down here and kind of left by Brian.
Okay.
And then Philip Middleton, who was another rider from Kemney, he was doing the Grampian region. So I met up with him. Apart from me and Phil Middleton, I didn't really know anybody else. And then again, I'm only, 12, 13-ish must have been. So I'm kind of like, just kind of didn't know what to do with myself. So I kind of just stayed in my room until we went down to the Sand Centre. I can't remember how we even got there. So we had to just go there and ride. But of course, you couldn't just ride. You had to wait on cameras being ready and all that kind of stuff. And it was just so much waiting about and what have you. I didn't enjoy any of it. It wasn't just, right, you're here. This is when you're riding. It was stop, lights, all this kind of stuff. And then you're just like, what's going on? I didn't enjoy it.
So it's a TV show more than a BMX thing.
Exactly.
They didn't have any ramps like outside or anything for people to ride, no?
Not that I can remember.
Okay.
It was just a kind of the usual setup. I think 2/4. I'm not even sure they had a canyon, to be honest. When I think back, I think it was just 2/4 pipes. I might be wrong. Maybe they did have a canyon, but I couldn't do canyon, so all I did was backwards and forwards.
Okay. I watched it last week, but I can't remember if they had a canyon or not.
Yeah. I mean, I was one of the younger riders, so I mean, I just wasn't on a par with most of the other people there because a lot of them were a lot older. And when you're a bit big and you've got a bit more weight about you, you can pull the bike about a bit more. So
yeah, of course.
I think for me at the time, I think I rode okay, nothing special, but it was all right.
Yeah. Can you remember who else you watched ride there? I can't remember who was on that one. I only watched that one episode. Were you on it? I think
Andy. I'm trying to think. Andy Reardon. I'm trying to think who was in my group.
Paul Zach.
Not Paul Zach. Zach someone. Did he maybe become no? I don't know. I can picture the guys, dark hair. I'm sure is it Paul Zach? Who was Paul Zach?
Paul Zach was the flatlander who rode for Rally. He was often in BMX Racer and Freestyle.
May well have been Paul Zach. I just remember the guy I can picture. He says, "Oh, you rode quite well," as if I don't know who you are, but you surprised me.
He was from like South London sort of area,
yeah. That would have been him. Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it later on. So yeah, thumbs down for BMX Beat. Did you meet Russell?
No. Well, I'm sure. I mean, it was there when we were all having dinner at night, but I'm kind of like, I'm not speaking.
He's just young. Yeah. He's just young. Yeah.
He's a pro. He's a TV presenter. He's a celebrity.
What about Gaz Top? You know, Gaz Top. He lives where the shop is. He lives in Stoke Newington, where I am. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I've never seen him, but yeah, I would like to bump into him one day. I know people who have seen him.
No, I think he spoke to you rather than you had a conversation. That was as far as it went.
Oh, no way. And then so this is this the year you get on AmCo as well? Yeah, isn't it? 86 or was that 87? So 86. Did you go back to Whole Shot for the 86 Whole Shot with McCoy and Dino De Luca?
Yes.
Okay.
So that So I'm trying to think what else. So 86, Scottish competitions, started doing English competitions, demo for Prince Charles, and BMX Beat. Right, so that was the key things from 86.
Yeah.
Whole shot in 86. There was a problem with the bus. So the bus or the coach broke down. So what showed up was a number 27 double-decker. Not a coach, an actual double-decker bus. So we all had to go down a whole shot in this rickety old double-decker bus and just rattle the whole way down. So that was funny. I think I got third again in that one.
Okay.
Again, can't remember much about riding. I just remember I had a white street beat with 1.5 black rims. And I think I've got some pictures of flatland stuff from that. So yeah, third on that. And Dino DeLuca, Dennis McCoy, rapping and all that kind of stuff. So that's my recollection of that.
Brilliant. You remember rapping as well. You're one of the few. Not many people remember that, yeah.
Oh, I've got on video.
Oh, that needs to be out there. So you're watching Dino DeLuca ride. Is that where you got the look back, the 1 foot look back from? No. Okay.
No. You won't believe this one. Right, so I look back now. So there's Dino DeLuca doing ridiculous look backs. There's Mike Cannon doing, maybe not at that point. And then there was Neal Ruffle doing 1-footed look backs as well. But none of that's where I got it from.
Okay.
To jump forward, Gary Henderson, the flatlander from Livingston, he did something on the half pipe, and I just thought, oh, something clicked in my head and thought, that might make look backs a bit easier. Because he used to go down and ride with Carlo.
Okay.
And he'd been down riding with Carlo, and he came back. He'd been riding his half pipe. So he came up, and suddenly he's got these various variations. And one of them was this kind of look back with a foot off. So I saw him do that and thought, I'm going to try that. Because that way, when you look back, if you drop the pedal, your front wheel won't hit the crank in the pedal. So I tried it, and almost straight away I got it. And I'm like, wow. An easy way to do look backs.
All right. So it wasn't even to get them more cranked originally. It was to stop it hitting the pedal because the bike's so short.
Because I could do look backs, but I could not get it past the pedal. Because as soon as you hit that point, you whack off your foot or the pedal. And I thought, as soon as I saw him do that, I thought, I'm going to try that because that way your foot, the front wheel won't hit the pedal. And it wasn't until you look back after that, before all that happened, you've got all these pictures, but that never occurred to me at that point. It was Gary Henderson doing what he did and suddenly clicked, I'm going to try that, and it worked.
Unreal. Because I didn't really pay much attention at the time that you was doing, because you was doing that full 270, and I was looking the other day, obviously I was looking at some old pictures of you riding, and there was like a bunch of really good, like, you're going to get embarrassed, like top level, like variations that you was doing, like pure American pro style, like, and the look back was the one I was like, that is so fucking good. And nobody knows really, well, not nobody knows, but like many people don't really know. They just think that Dino was the only one to do it like that. But then there was you, like cranked right in there. Like, I was blown away, like when I saw some of them, and even recent, like a few years back in Livy Halfpipe, I think you put a video up when you got Tufts on and you're doing it, and it's still right round there as well. Yeah.
So because again we're jumping about a bit, but Dave Gurley. So I got this bike which was a replica of the one I had in 1990, and I got that, and I think John Buultjens had suggested, this is like the one you had in 1990.
1990, yeah.
It'd be great if you could redo some of those pictures.
Yeah.
So that was the plan.
Okay. Yeah, it was good. That was locked in. That look back was mega impressive.
So that was the plan. It was for pictures. It was for pictures. We did that, and that was the aim. The actual ultimate aim. The no-footed can-can in whatever magazine, whatever it was, a freestyle. The aim was to redo that picture, but the lens wasn't quite right, so it didn't look the same. And plus, I was brakeless, and I'd never. It took so much effort. I did get enough for can-can. It's not the same angle as the original one, so we will have to recreate it again.
Oh, you're going to do it again, yeah? Amazing.
We're going to do it again.
How long did it take you to start getting, like, from when you started to do that look back? Like, what was the sort of time progression of, like, when you started just to fully get it, like 270?
So I remember Gary doing that he had the 88 street beat, I think. 88, no, maybe 88, 89. So the one was the Croman. It was the last street beat.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know the one. Yeah, the street beat 2, yeah.
Yeah, so that would have been 89.
No, 88. No, there was 88. Yeah, 88.
So it must have been around about 88, 89. But again, I've got video. I got a video camera in 1990. I've got video footage of me at the World Cup in 88. And I'm not doing look backs. But a lot of the problem for me was I could do stuff at the skate park I couldn't do anywhere else.
Okay.
So, for example, I learned turn downs in I think I've said this already, but it was another interview. I think I learned turn downs in 88. I don't think I properly did them in a competition till maybe 89.
All right.
Actually, 87 I learned them. But it took me a while to kind of get them where I could put them outside the skate park. But in terms of getting things clicked, it was, I think, 89. It was 89. I've got video footage of doing proper look backs, proper turn downs. My no-handers were never particularly great, but sometimes I could get them okay.
Yeah, I thought some of them looked good on the pictures I saw, yeah.
Yeah, it's just when you see them in video, are kind of like, sometimes you get the right capture, other times it's not so good.
Yeah.
But so 89, I think, is the time that I managed to get things clicked and kind of stretched.
All right. Oh, and what about, like, whilst we're here on the trick topic, how did you learn 540 so early?
Right. Back to 1987. So, so Easter 1987, myself, Gary Henderson, went up to stay with Scott Macdonald. Now, he had 2 quarter pipes in his back garden. So he had it set up like a little 6 foot wide half pipe.
Yeah.
So Scott had learned 540s kind of halfway up the quarter pipes. So transitional twist, they would call it. You're not getting out.
Yeah.
And he was a flatlander, so I couldn't believe how. So it was almost like a 360 to 180 in the back with kick turn out. So he was doing them, and we were up staying with him over Easter. So I thought, he's doing it, I'm going to give it a try. So that's how I learned them on Scott Macdonald's quarter pipe in his back garden. So the key thing was getting that 360 enough so you can land and kind of pivot out on your back wheel. So that's when I learned them. Then I kind of, it's different doing it in a quarter pipe to then going down and doing it in a concrete half pipe. But I did try, I think, a few times. I must have practiced on the half pipe, the quarter pipe, at the skate park.
Yeah.
But what I did learn was how to fall and come out of them without hurting myself. So as long as you had knee pads on, if you under rotated at all, you just straight down on your right knee and knee slide out. So that's that's my way of learning them. But that was it. So I think the first time I properly got them good, I remember learned them in Scott's quarter pipe, and there was a UK BFA competition in Woking maybe a couple of weeks before the World started.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So I tried it there for the first time. I cannot remember if I pulled it in my run, but I remember going up to try it for the first time in practice and didn't make it. I kind of just didn't spin enough. So that was, again, I think I pulled it in my run, but it's just kind of 360 and pivot out the back wheel. But the Worlds, because we had, a few weeks later, because we had so much practice on these big wide ramps, I started to get a bit braver and kind of go up a bit higher. And obviously the higher you go, the easier it is to spin.
Yeah.
But essentially that's how I learned them. It was the way of learning the style to do them was to start low and just build up.
Okay. Oh, and what year was that? Because you was doing them like a couple of feet out, like really seemed like 88 or whatever it was, 89. It seemed early.
Yeah. Well, I learned them 87.
Okay.
And what I do remember, 1988, I've got pictures, I don't have any video footage, learning them, trying to get them out in the half pipe at the skate park. So I've got an Aqua Master, and that's where I've just practiced in the half pipe, again, with the knee pads on, so if you didn't make it or you hooked up, you could just knee slide out it. That was the key to doing it, because it'd be too scary for me. Otherwise, it's as long as in my head I could see how I could bail out it without hurting myself. That's what I would do.
All right. And what was there anyone else trying to do them at that point?
No.
Of your crew? No.
I did manage. So a friend who was at school with Shay. I managed to persuade him to try them in '89, and he pulled them. But when he hadn't sussed out a crash if it went wrong, so when he crashed, he really hurt himself. But he was also doing them. Scott Mcnicholl must have been learning them as well. I can't remember exactly when Scott learned them, but he must have been practicing them as well, around about '88.
All right.
Sure.
And when was the last time you did one?
I have no idea. Well, it got to the point where I could just go up and do them. I do remember doing one in Unit 23, but even that was probably 10 or so years ago. Just going up and just, even if you're halfway up, just trying to get used to the transition, you could just do a 540.
Yeah.
So it was probably 10 years ago.
All right. Would you think you can still do it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was terrifying. Yeah. Oh,
no, in my head, this is the problem. In my head, I know exactly what I want to do.
Yeah, of course.
It's whether the body lets you do that.
Yeah. That's why I asked. Yeah, just to see if.
So I think the way I used to do it, in my head. So if you can come to a big 360 jump, then you can do a 540 air. It's the same kind of spin. So if I can still go up and do something like that, so I can still do 540 disaster. So if I can do 540 disaster.
Oh yeah. No, if you're yeah. It's like a lower risk 540, isn't it? 540 disaster. The spin's still the same. So yeah. Oh man. And like, let me tap into the AmCo days as well, because the AmCo thing I did quite enjoy. I remember seeing the ad. Like, bear in mind, I was like probably 13 or 14, and I saw the ad, and it was David France, right? The AmCo ad.
Dave France.
And I was like, even I knew that wasn't your name, and I was like a kid, you know. How did the AmCo thing happen, and how did that ad come about?
I actually meant to ask some people before this to find out, because I don't know.
Okay.
So I'll tell you what happened. So that, am I right in saying that was my first ever picture in a magazine?
No way.
It was my first ever picture, and I remember I was down. Brian Henderson must have been sent copies in advance, so he said to me, "Have you changed your name?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Have you changed your name?" I'm like, "No, I didn't say anything else." He said nothing else. He just asked a few times, "Are you sure you've not changed your name?" I'm like, "No." And it wasn't until I saw the magazine, I can't even remember what I thought. I've just thought to myself, two things. First of all, that picture, I just thought, comparing what I could do, and then you see that picture, I thought I'm not saying it was a bad picture, but it was just the height of it and what I was actually doing in the picture. I thought that's rubbish for me. So there was that, and then there was the Dave France.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I've since, I think, again, I wanted to double check this, but I think Patrick Cowan took that picture. Okay. And I only realised that in the last few months because Owen Clegg sent through some pictures that he'd found that Patrick had taken, and it was the same angle and everything. Okay. So I thought, as soon as I saw it, I thought, I bet he's taken that picture. But as I said, the picture's fine. It's just what I was doing I wasn't particularly happy with. And I have no idea how Dave France came about. I can only assume someone wrote in a way that it looked like Dave France because someone who was doing the ad didn't know what they were printing. And I don't know. And would it have been the Nobles at the time that had the magazine? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was, yeah. It might be maybe just before, actually. Yeah.
So I did mean to message Mark to say, just after all these years, can you enlighten me to what's happened? But I didn't get a chance. So it may not even have been him doing the magazine at the time. Yeah,
I'm not sure. What was that like? How did that AmCo thing come about? Was that through Mackie or something?
Yeah. So again, this was just doing competitions. So there was a UK competition in Jack Kane in Edinburgh, and this was, again, it was maybe around about Easter in '87, and we all knew the Worlds were coming up later in the year. And Keith, Mackie's dad, came up to me in that competition and said, "Do you ride for anybody? You're not sponsored or anything." So he was double checking that, and then didn't say anything more than that. And then maybe a few weeks later, I think he contacted me and asked if I would want to ride for AmCo. I actually cannot remember how he contacted me. I do remember him asking me at Jack Kane Centre if I was sponsored or anything. So it was around about then. They asked me to ride for AmCo.
Oh, and what was that like? Like, those bikes look terrible. What were they?
So it was that original AmCo freestyle with the double top tube, Pro Clash rims. Now I rode a free coaster. If you remember those ACS free coasters where you could turn it on. So I had one of them. So when I got this bike, I had it on my Tufts. And so when AmCo gave me this bike, I had to go and get a separate free coaster and get it fitted on my own. Didn't pay for it myself. So I did all that. I cannot remember the bars I used. I can't remember. I can't recall any dodgy AmCo bars I was riding. But the bike was okay. It wasn't amazing. It was fine. I could still ride at the skate. I've got some pictures of me on the AmCo, riding in the half pipe. I could still ride it. I do remember Brian Henderson saying that, the Worlds is coming up. Are you sure you want to change your bike? Literally a few weeks before it starts. But I could still ride it okay. So I wasn't fussed. In my head, it's a free bike. Yeah. That was it.
Oh, and was those frames just old frames left over from before that they hadn't got rid of, or you don't know?
No, it was a complete bike. It was like a complete. I don't know where. Oh, okay. But it was a complete bike that they sent me with the Pro Class wheels. So yeah, it was brand new. I've got a funny feeling my dad maybe drove down to Carlisle or maybe I went with him. I can't remember. I'm sure we maybe drove down to Carlisle to get this bike picked up from Keith and Stephen.
Okay. Yeah. What do you know who owned AmCo? Was it the Jarvises, or don't know nothing about it? No.
I know nothing.
Okay. Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery to me as well, really. That brand. But Neal Ruffle rode from at one point.
Yeah, I know that Keith was wanting to try and do some big things from what the plan was when I kind of said to him that I'm kind of going to Haro. I know he had kind of had big plans to try and kind of grow the brand, I think, and that disappointed him, I think. But yeah, I still don't. I think it's just some distributor that kind of bought them in, isn't it? It's not like
that's what I thought. I think it was
designed bikes. It was just generic.
I thought it was a distributor brand. Yeah, I didn't understand the AmCo and the Mongoose thing. I thought AmCo was the distro and Mongoose is what they bought in, but then they bought bikes out. I didn't really get it.
Because you never get AmCo bikes anywhere else. So in the US, Mongoose is Mongoose, but over here it's AmCo Mongoose. So yeah, it's weird. I think it was just a generic Taiwanese bike that they brought in and tried to brand it. Yeah. Okay. And
it's a bit of a, because in '87. That was the year that BMX was sinking pretty fast, wasn't it? So if he thought he was going to turn anything around that year, definitely wouldn't have. He'd have had to wait a good few years for anything more to happen there.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, because I was thinking about how from Scottish competitions, for example, there were still competitions in '87. There were still Scottish competitions in '88. But there was nothing after that.
Yeah.
So I think, there was definitely a slowdown from '87 onwards.
Yeah.
That's when I kind of first noticed it. But '88 onwards, it was in Scotland. It was dead in terms of competitions and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. What was that? Did you ever get grief for riding BMX in your local area, off of sort of the local sort of towny kids or anything? Or what was it like there?
So you get these kind of casuals that come down and just noise you up because they're casuals.
Yeah, anything to do.
But because I mean, people walk past it, but it's not like you had to actually actively come and go into the park. So you were kind of isolated and left alone. People would wander past, but unless they were just looking for trouble, they more or less left you alone. It was fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
what I do remember is when it was raining. So there was a multi-story car park up at the shopping centre. So if it rained, you'd go up there and just ride flat land and what have you. And I do remember there was someone who was in my class at school, and this is when he'd left school and he had a car, and he made some kind of comment about riding kids' bikes because he had a car. And that's about it.
That was it. That's pretty good, yeah. Excellent. And yeah, so what else did you have to do for AmCo throughout that year? Who was the other team riders? Mackie and
Stephen Laidlaw.
Stephen Laidlaw, that's right. Yeah.
And then Gary Neal.
Oh, okay.
So I think was Stephen Laidlaw still on the Worlds? I've lost track. I think
he was. Yeah.
He was.
I think he was.
So
I think so.
Yeah. So basically, I did 3 demos. I think the 3 demos with AmCo that I can recall. So the one was with It's Wicked TV program.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw it. It was before the World, so it was in Carlisle. So there was myself, Pepi, Mackie, Gary Neal. We were on this TV show and some local Carlisle riders to show that we were pros by having these other local riders after we did a stint. So that was to advertise the Worlds that was going to be in Carlisle. So that was the kind of first thing that I did that I can recall with AmCo, and that was kind of with Colin Kefford as well to advertise these Worlds. I also have a recollection. So I did something with Gary Forsyth.
All right.
Again, I asked him about this during the week there, and I've already forgot. It was somewhere. We did a demo somewhere outside on a wooden platform. Mackie, Gary Forsyth, and myself, because Gary and his then girlfriend drove me down to this demo. So that was one thing. And another thing I remember, we did something in the Blackpool Tower.
All right.
There was a ballroom. I'm sure it must have been Gary Henderson and Mackie and myself did this thing, and it was like a kids' party in the Blackpool Tower. That's all I can remember. So I can only remember doing those 3 demos for AmCo. I think maybe rode a couple of competitions, rode in the Worlds, obviously. And then Whole Shot 87. I rode that in 87, and that was the last time I rode for AmCo in 87 Whole Shot.
Oh, okay. How did you do in that one?
I won that one.
All right.
I won that one. So that in my age group at that point would have been Simon Tabron and Mick Hudson. I think that was, we generally were the top 3 at that point from 87 onwards, because we'd moved up an age group and they'd all moved things about. So I won that one. I can't remember if Simon or Mick second or third, but it was in that order.
All right, cool. So that's so the 87 Worlds was the one where they did the tour, right? The times that they went round. Where did you win that?
Won that, but again, this is where it's split. So I won ramps, I think 3rd in Flatland, which I still think is hilarious because I keep forgetting I used to ride Flatland, and then 1st overall.
Oh, nice. World champ.
Yeah.
What else we got here? So after the AmCo days, you end up getting on Shiner. Was it Shiner or was it Haro? What was it?
It was Haro, then turned to Shiner. So originally it was Haro. So at Whole Shot I was at, in fact, so I obviously Scott Carroll's a Scottish rider, and I kind of know him and knew him, what have you, and we used to ride together at the skate park and stuff. So he was on Skyway at the time. So at Whole Shot, I can't remember him being in the bus on the way down. I don't know if he was or wasn't. But anyway, in Whole Shot, he kept coming up and said, I think you'll be happy next year. I'm like, what do you mean? I think you'll be happy next year. He obviously knew I was going to get asked to join the Haro team. He was in Skyway at the time, though.
All
but
right.
little did I know, the plan was to create a UK Haro team. So I get asked at Whole Shot, do you want to join this Haro team? It'll be myself, Jason Davies, and Scott Carroll. That was the plan. The three of us were going to start or be part of this UK Haro team. So I was asked at Whole Shot in 87. So I said yes, but they sent through all the details and stuff. And then I kind of said, well, my dad, they must have had a demo or something with AmCo, and my dad was there to pick me up or something, and he said to Keith, yeah, well, they were talking about the competitions, and they mentioned, well, Haro's after him. And I was kind of like, trying to sit in front of Keith, and I'm like, So I'm just embarrassed. But anyway, so I said, so what are you going to do? So I'm like, well, I don't know. Let me go away and look at my options. So I kind of went away, and they sent me a contract through, and they'll supply you with this, that, and the next thing. So I kind of spoke to Keith and said, right, Haro's going to offer me this. And he tried to counteract that offer with AmCo stuff. And fine well, it's never going to go.
No.
So So anyway, so it was New Year's Eve, 87. I phoned Keith up and says, right, I'm going to go with the Haro thing. And he just says, well, best of luck. So, and that's how I moved on to Haro.
Okay, so he was cool though, yeah?
Yeah.
What about Mackie? Was he cool as well? He seemed like he was all right, actually. Like
He was. It's true. He was quiet. I mean, I was hardly like myself. He was quiet, but yeah, he was cool.
Okay. And who asked you to ride for Haro at Whole Shot?
Hawkins.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought it would have been, but yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, because he was in the Skyway team, and then the plan was to have a Skyway and a Haro team separately, but obviously under the same management.
All right. And then, so obviously then you're on Haro, right?
Yes.
And Vision was it Haro and Vision at the same time, or did that come later?
Vision came in 89.
Oh, okay, a lot later, yeah.
Sorry. Let me think. I think it was 89, because at 88, yeah, I was asked 87. So 88, I was Haro, and I used to get vans from China.
All right.
89. There was a deal with Vision in the US, so it was directly from Vision that Hawkins had kind of had some kind of deal because he'd been over in the US. So he came back and said, we've got this deal with Vision, and again he could read a list of things that you would get. So I knew, it was endless Vision stuff.
All right. Was it any good though? Was that fun riding for those guys? Scott Carroll was crazy. I thought like he would just haul ass, like go so high. He just seemed like so just on fire, like when he rode.
Yeah. So Scott Carroll was another one where he just when the music goes and he was just in the zone, he just went for it. But he had his own half pipe, and he had his own half pipe that he built.
Yeah, I saw footage. Yeah.
Broughty Ferry. So we used to go up. Myself and some of the guys from Dunfermline, so Mark Young would be part of that. So we'll get footage because Mark Young would be there with his video camera of Scott Carroll riding his half pipe up there. And we used to go up, but I mean, riding a skate park and then trying to ride a half pipe, it's chalk and cheese. Yeah. But that's what he learned. He'd just go nuts. And when these competitions, his run went and the music went, he was just off.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. I remember, him killing himself trying to do a 900 at one of the not the 2-hit things, the UK King of Vert things over here. Early, was when 900s weren't really a thing.
Yeah, because before they even did that, he tried one over a canyon in Germany. There was the Worlds in Germany in 1990, and he went for it there as well.
Oh, okay.
That was before the King of Vert thing, and that was nuts. I mean, and he didn't pull it, but he rotated round, but he's just flat bottom and then off.
Yeah, landed too soon on the one I saw, and he just ploughed into it. And what else was involved in like the Haro thing? You did contests, you did do demos for those guys.
Yeah, there was loads of demos.
Was there? Yeah, or like foreign demos.
Yeah. So one of the first ones I got involved, I'd literally. So that was December. I was asked. I'm sure it was the end of January or maybe February. We're on TV, number 73.
I see it. Yeah.
So that I'm sure that was running about February, and it wasn't summer, and it's outside, and you wake up, the ramps are set out in an open air in the TV studio, and of course it's been raining, and then they want us to go up and do some airs and stuff. So we got up in the morning, it was wet, so they had these big kind of gas dryers trying to dry the ground and the ramps and stuff. It was how Mike Canning didn't kill himself in that class was beyond me.
It was you, Canning, Carlo, and Jason Davis, yeah?
Yes. So that was the first demo. There just seemed to be demos all the time. I can't even think back to where they were. I remember I've been in some demo in some sports centre on quarter pipes, and there was some skaters that were there. And in 88, skaters weren't that common, although it was starting to pick back up. But I knew the skaters from the skate park from years earlier, because they were big grown-up skaters. I don't even know their name, but if I saw them or heard them, I would know them. But they're skaters that used to skate with Jamie Blair, Davy Phillips,
okay,
Cowan. Their skaters are recognised, but I still didn't talk to them because I thought I'm still a little kid and they're kind of big grown-up skateboarders. But it was bizarre. So that was another demo. I couldn't tell you anything about the demo, why we were there or anything. And then I'm trying to think what else. In 88, we did a demo for Prince Rainier of Monaco in Monte Carlo.
All right.
That was myself, Mike Canning, Gary Henderson, and then Brian Henderson as well, little Brian, his little brother.
All right,
We did a circus show at this Festival of Circus in Monte Carlo.
Okay.
It was to represent some circus down in Great Yarmouth, I think it was. So that was, I think there was a competition, and we got second in this circus competition.
What was you competing against, like other just circus acts?
Chinese jugglers and all sorts.
Oh, okay.
And the bizarre thing, it was televised. See, if you go on YouTube, they must have about 3 or 4 different festivals of circus in Monte Carlo every year, because it's a big, massive thing. You can find every festival circus act in Monte Carlo for every year, apart from that 1 year.
I knew you was going to say that, yeah.
87, 89, they're all there. But that one we did, can't see it.
No way, man. And you can kind of tell, like, that 88 was a big drop in BMX because by your like activity of like what's going on. So now you're kind of doing demos and stuff instead of before. It was like contest circuit was pretty strong, wasn't it? You was doing demos and contest circuit, and now like in 88 you've got like a pretty big sponsor, but like the activity is like down to just demos, it seems.
Yeah, so there was demos, but we still had competitions in Scotland. They were less. We still have footage from competitions in Inverness. I can't remember ever going to Dumfries. Dumfries seemed to be the key for the first few years. In 80, I can't remember doing that. But yeah, there's definitely a drop in competitions. UK BFA was still kind of doing its thing and doing that kind of World Cup thing rather than the big week tour about.
Yeah, that's right.
The World Cup in Manchester. So
did you go to that, the Manchester Worlds?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I was at that. It was weird because it was outside and it was inside. So the aim had been to have the competition outside. So there was a setup outside.
I remember,
and then it would rain, so everybody had to move inside. So it was, in the UK, that's what would you expect. But it potentially could have been, it could have been good if it was outside, if the weather was nice and everything else. But obviously, in this country, it poured the rain. Invariably, it was inside in a sports centre, as always.
And how did you do well with that one?
I won that one.
Fucking hell. So how many How many world titles? What we got? 3 world titles or 4 or what? What's the story here?
87, 88, and 89, and then in 1990 was the last time I entered. I got third.
Okay.
That was in Caen, Germany.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's pretty good run you had then. And that was the one where Carlo does the big air, right? And Joe Johnson was here and Chris
Yes.
McCoy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Yeah, so Mark Young, again, he was always filming stuff, and he was always there. He had all that footage, had footage from outside, practice, all of that stuff, and then doesn't have it anymore. So Mark, what he'd do at competitions, so he would be good friends with Eric Steele, Dave Young, Terry Jenkins, so he would send them that footage that he'd filmed.
Okay.
So there's second generation copies that are now materializing, and that's what you're seeing online and stuff. But it's things I'm like, where did that come from? Because Brian Henderson had a copy, I had a copy. We thought, we've got goldmine here. We're the only ones with this copy of this footage, and then suddenly someone's posting it online. And like, where did that copy come from?
Yeah, okay.
I've no idea. For someone who just did a few copies, remember, it's not shared online, it's just a few actual videotapes. There's a lot of footage of it going about.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, some of it is really like it's rough quality, isn't it? What did you guys think of the rest of the sort of UK scene? Like as you in Scotland, was you guys ever critical of no one coming to Scotland to shoot photos of you guys, even though there's a thriving scene there and really good riders was just as good,
Right, so in our naivety, we thought, well, why is no one coming to shoot us? Now, speaking of TLB a few months ago, he says, and it's showing us some of the pictures that we've got, he said, if you'd sent that in, we would have printed that in action bike, no question. But you're like, yeah, but you're meant to come to us. It never entered our head to send stuff into a magazine. It didn't they didn't advertise, send your stuff through to us and we'll print it. But it's just one of those things that we knew, unless you moved down to England where the photographers were in the magazines, you weren't going to get in unless something there was a reason for people to come up or you to be somewhere where there was going to be someone. We kind of gathered that after a few years. And then, obviously, over the years, various Scottish riders started to get some coverage and stuff in the magazines, purely because there was the Scottish photographers who then started to take the pictures and send it into the magazines. But it takes a photographer to think to do that rather than, well, I've got this rough picture made in a disposable camera. What can I do with it? It was just, I've got that picture, and you didn't think.
Yeah, I when I think of it now, I'm wondering if not, Noel Cowan had a feature in BMX Action Bike, didn't he? Like a pretty good spread and stuff. That was early for a Scottish guy, yeah. Because other than that, it's I can't think of too much before, say, 89 that you guys got.
Patrick Cowan, his brother, is the photographer and wrote the article.
Oh, okay.
So that's end. So he got printed. So
there
was also stuff for Scott Macdonald, maybe a bit later. I can't remember if it was a bit later or a bit earlier. But David Gurley, his friend, was the photographer, and he wrote the article. So it took people from Scotland to start doing that and taking the photos and writing the articles. Then it got printed.
Okay. Yeah. Because we used, we were we would moan that no one comes here. We was only 8 miles away from where everything was happening, and we would always bitch about those guys never fucking come here and take photos and blah blah blah. But to think that there was always pictures anyway, and then you guys are up there ripping, and nobody's coming for years.
Well, nothing demonstrates that more than, have you seen some of the pictures of Juice at Ron Bowl recently?
Yeah.
How was that never in a magazine is beyond me. It's unbelievable.
It was in RAD once.
Really? I must have missed that one.
Yeah.
I saw those pictures from, that's how long ago? And how is this the first time I've ever seen this stuff? It was nuts.
Juice had like a spread, like an interview in one of the old RADs, but it was at a time when you probably wouldn't have picked up RAD because every page was skateboarding, and there would be like a spread in the middle of BMX, and then the next issue there'd be like a picture of that bigger BMX. Yeah. It was like at that point, yeah.
Because
I can't believe you've not seen that before, because that's a really famous spread. Yeah,
I hadn't seen that one. But the other thing, I was down Brian Henderson. So a couple of years ago, he was moving house. So I said, "See all your videotapes, everything you have, give it to me. I'll scan stuff. I'll copy stuff." So he gave me all these photos, and he'd taken some pictures down at ROM as well from must have been 84, just down from the bowl. And I'm just like, even looking at it, of just Brian Henderson taking some pictures, I just thought some of this riding is unbelievable. And I'd never seen people airing out ROM bowl that high. And it was from 80, it must have been 84. But I just thought, that's nuts.
Have you still got them photos?
Yeah. I'll send some.
Can you remember what bike he was on?
It was a Yellow Tufts Green GT, I think.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, a bit later, yeah. You know the story of the legendary 13-foot air out of the performance bowl, right?
Yeah, I think on one of your interviews, it's something on the lamppost. He got his high.
Yeah. But it's like it's just like for decades it's been like a thing, and I'd love to see like old photos of Jess riding there, because I only saw him there once or twice, and it was like one of them was contest day, and you couldn't get a good run up. So it was, rubbish, but yeah. But I was definitely interested about that. Like, what you guys thought of just the media just not even bothering to go anywhere near Scotland, as there was so much good riding going on.
One thing, I can't remember what year it was, but Scott Carroll obviously used to do a lot more travelling, and then started to go down to England and got a bit more footage. I just remember there was a point where, because I think he moved down to England, there was a thing in the magazine saying Scott would like to know that he's now English. And then you're like, right, that's fine. This guy's English. I think he must have moved down to Dorset way. I think
you're right. Yeah, he probably moved to like where the nobles were or something. And how? What was the? Was it Motormouth, or was that later? That was later, right?
That was 91. That was 91.
Right. We won't touch that yet then. And the other thing was the 89 Worlds. Like what was like now BMX is completely like in a recession, right? No one's riding. There's like the contests are dwindling, but you were still riding real hard, right? Like what was motivating you to like keep pushing that level of riding?
I enjoyed it. That was it.
That was it, yeah.
That was it. I have, again, it's just riding the skate park. I have footage. I got my video camera in 89, and I can see when I look back at that footage in 1990. When I look at that footage, one of the very first things I filmed was me in the half pipe, and I'm just giving it everything without a helmet and just with Tufts, doing everything, just getting absolutely blasting it. But it was fun. That was it.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, it's interesting looking back, like at how small it got and how risky it. Like the smaller it got, the more risky it got. Like, which is crazy to me. Like,
well, that's kind of when, because it was bash guards at that point. Yeah. So that's when it was all. And this is where it got quite interesting, because again, without the skate park, we were just riding street and banks and stuff anyway. It's just what you did.
Yeah.
So the fact that was kind of getting more of a focus, and then the bikes have these bash guards, so you're trying to do grinds and all that kind of stuff. It just made it a bit more interesting. But the funny thing is, you didn't know what you were doing. So you're trying to go up and, for example, I think I've got a picture of me on the black bash guard. There's a rail at the skate park that it goes down and kind of tapers down. So I used to jump up on it in the bash guard and grind down sideways.
Oh, wow.
But it's literally like a few inches you were grinding.
Yeah.
But that's what you do, because you've got these bash guards and these grinds.
Yeah.
but it wasn't until years later that people actually started to be able to do that for long periods of time and what have you. Whereas you're just seeing somebody and you think, well, what else would you do in a bash guard?
Yeah.
Because they're all been kind of 50-50 or whatever you call the bash guards and fake you out. I thought, well, you grind it, so you do that.
Yeah, that's way advanced still, like for back then. Like no one was like sliding sideways like at all,
Yeah, I mean, it literally was only a couple of inches, and if it was any longer, it was...
but that's where it starts, right? Like it starts with a chink, and then you build upon it. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. And what did you think of like the stuff that was going on with like BMX action bike stroke RAD when it kind of went away from like the contest thing and they started getting like fluorescent and sort of street riding and all that kind of era? Was you into that, or was you like, I don't know about this? What was your view on that?
Yeah, I wasn't into the full luminous clothing and what have you, but a couple of watches. I had a Haro watch. I got a Haro watch. I put a Haro watch and a Swatch. I had 2 watches. Okay. And I'm trying to think what else. We used to have a laugh. Do you know, they used to M-Zone or Mud Machine ads doing all this kind of.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That was the whole thing. Was just taking the Mickey out of that. It was just hilarious. And if someone was taking a picture, then you'd pull the silliest face you could and kind of do all of this stuff. But
okay.
You're just copying what you see, but it was funny. It was nothing more than just funny mess around because that's what they do in the magazines, and it's you didn't take that stuff seriously. Well, we didn't. I don't think we just had fun with it.
Yeah, well, I think that's what they were doing as well, really. But it was polarizing because I remember at the time I was thinking, what the fuck are these guys doing? But then looking back at it now, I think it's amazing. Yeah. Yeah,
and the whole Zoid thing as well. I mean,
yeah,
I've got some. That's again. Someone's taking a picture, right? Do something daft in the background.
And then, so then like we kind of go to '89, which was a pretty good. That was a good year for you, right? So looking from the outside, like your riding seemed to be really good now. And you're riding at that. I watched footage of you at the Worlds in France with a big quarter.
Yeah. So that's the biggest ramp I'd ever ridden at that time.
Okay.
So, because when I went to that competition, I can't remember how big the ramp was, but it was just, I'd never ridden anything that big. So when you first get there, the first couple of hours, you're like, I'm never going to be able to ride this. So it took quite a bit of practice. But another thing as well, I was doing blunts at the time, kind of hopping from the platform in.
Yeah,
and that was a big old ramp to be doing that because I'd only kind of practiced that at the skate park, which wasn't particularly big. So this was huge. So it took me long enough to even get the nerve to back hop into that transition. But it took a while, but I kind of really get into that one. So that was a good ramp.
And what was that? Another Brian Henderson adventure?
We got a bus. There was a bus, a UK BFA bus.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Woking, maybe?
Okay,
so I remember the Hudsons were on it. I think there was a whole ton of riders on it. I think maybe the whole UK entourage went on this bus, more or less, to the Worlds in Paris.
Okay. And that was a good contest, right? It looked really good from like the photos and the video footage. Like Carlo was there, Jason Ellis, Canning.
It was a good.
It looks unreal, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was probably my favourite competition because the ramp was brilliant, the riding was amazing, and I still there's footage of Carlo just doing this huge air. The one from '88 and that quarter pipe is big, but this other one is just unbelievable. But I don't think many people got a picture of it. It didn't get much footage. But it was just the riding was incredible. And I think there was a thing with Scott Carroll and Carlo as well. I think they were in the same group.
Okay.
So I think they were maybe trying to psych each other out or something.
All right.
I just remember they were kind of, because Carlo was, I think he was maybe trying either a cherry picker drop in or a decade drop in or something. And we're kind of like, you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And Scott Carroll's trying to come up with something he could do that would beat him. It was, and then it who can get the highest and who can do, whatever variation.
Yeah, I remember there's a good picture of Carlo doing a can look back from that event as well on that big corner. Yeah. But yeah, that looked like a good one. We've got a Patreon page, so if you could show us any support, we'd be most grateful. The link's below. A lot of work goes into these shows, so anything you could do would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Overall, with stuff that's up in the roof, we go back to 1976. Over time, they do tend to lean. Susceptible to collapse, shall we put it that way. I'm probably the only person in the entire country that's doing this.
Previouspage.co.uk. Print ain't dead.
So, and a couple of things come into my head that I don't think I did mention, and one is, well, there's a few key bits for the 80s, and I don't think I've mentioned either of them.
Okay.
So, one is the Dundee factory, which I can recall going to that in 1988. So that was an indoor. It was an indoor skate park. It was a DIY skate park in an old disused factory. Yeah. So that's probably, from a Scottish standpoint, that's the first place that all the we used to go at this old disused skate park up in Dundee and ride there because it had mini ramps in it, and that's the key thing that was missing at that point for us.
I've seen pictures of that. That was in some skate mags as well, I think, wasn't it?
Yes. So I think that for me was the first time. I think 1980. I remember going there with a couple of the skaters from my school.
Okay.
We'd get the train up on a Saturday, and we'd be there all weekend, and we'd just sleep in this old disused skate park.
No way.
Dodgy as hell.
Can you remember who built that stuff in there?
Not off the top of my head. It was all the kind of John Rattery. I'm sure he was there. I don't know if you know the name John Rattery. He was there when I was there. His dad used to drive him. He was either at Livingston or no matter where I was in Scotland, he'd suddenly be there because he'd go to the skate park and his dad would driving him there. I can picture all of them. I just cannot picture. I can't think of their names right now.
Okay, no worries.
It'll come back to me. But yeah, there's a whole ton of skaters that built that. And that was the first place. I think, for example, I remember arranging to meet Andy Burke and Amos Burke up there. Maybe if that wasn't 88, that was 89. But I remember anyway, nobody was driving. And so when I wanted to go somewhere, I'd get up, and that's my focus for the day, is getting up to Dundee to ride the skate park. Unfortunately, nobody else was as keen as me. So I'd get up at the crack of dawn, be up there for like 10 o'clock, and then come 12 o'clock, I'm still riding around on my own board because no one showed up. At 1 o'clock, I thought, they're not coming. I'm just getting the train back home. And then they'd all appear at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'd been and gone by that point. Because obviously there was no mobile phones and stuff at that point. And I was just keen. I was just keen to get up in the morning, get out, do what we needed to do. But nobody else did that. Everyone else waited till the afternoon and went and rode. So I think that happened a couple of times. I'd go somewhere to meet someone, and then I was too early and left because I got bored by the time they appeared.
All right. Well, how far was Dundee from where you are?
60 miles.
Oh, it's not too bad, yeah.
So it was, it'd be an hour and a half in the train for me, and it'd probably a couple of hours for the Glasgow guys.
Okay. Well, nice. Yeah, was that I remember a picture of Grant. Oh, maybe this is this is way later.
The grind.
Oh, the grind on the sprocket. That was Dundee, right? Okay.
That was Dundee. That was a jam I think they had there maybe the year later, 89.
Okay. So that lasted for a couple of years, that place?
Yeah. That was the original factory. There's been a few. That one lasted a couple of years. That particular mag coverage of that was another David Gurley, I think, article. He took those pictures as well. I can't remember when that factory shut down, but a couple of years later, they opened another factory. It was a similar situation where it was a disused warehouse that the skaters just decided to put ramps in. So that's the second one that was built. I think it was maybe 93.
Oh, no way.
92, 93. because again, we were all driving by that point, so we'd all drive up and ride the skate park up there in this whole factory.
And they were both squat skate parks, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
amazing. Well, good. Excellent.
And I'm trying to think what else, other key bits. So there was the Dundee skate park, and the other bit that's not been mentioned, which is quite key, was the Aberdeen Exhibition Centre. Now that I think that was 89. I can't remember how it came about, but there was in the exhibition centre, a big massive exhibition centre, they had a big full-size half pipe, and they had various street ramps and what have you up there. And Scott Carroll used to ride a lot up there because of the half pipe. And I think that's the first time I went up to Aberdeen and stayed with Peter Lindsay just to ride the skate park up there. So again, that was another reason to all kind of go up to Aberdeen and ride up there.
What, and that was an indoor skate park in Aberdeen?
Yeah. Big, massive exhibition centre. I don't know how it came about that they had the ramps and stuff in there, but that seemed to be there. Maybe it was over a summer, I'm not sure. All
right. Oh, nice. I don't think I know of that. I think I might have seen some skateboard pictures from there, maybe.
I think there was another article that there's a skate contest there, which would have been in a magazine. And again, I think Dave Gourley did an article on that one. So yeah, it might have been in a skate magazine rather than a BMX magazine. I'm not really sure.
Okay. Oh, nice. He's still about, isn't he, Dave Gourley? I saw some pictures of him online, I think, recent.
Yeah. I mean, he's always down for taking pictures. So if you're ever in the mood to try something, give him a call. He'll come through and take pictures.
All right. So yeah, like basically we sort of got up to 1990. I think we ended in 89, right?
Yeah, so 1990. So
let me just have a quick flick through here what we got. So yeah, you're riding for Haro / Vision Shiner, and you're doing TV stuff and demos. You did a few things in 1990, right?
Yeah, that was probably the last year of the proper UK BFA competitions that I can recall. I had a video camera by that point, so I've got the last footage I have of what I would class as normal. The last of the UK BFA competitions were 1990, so
yeah,
a few of those on videos. So yeah, because that's when it went from the Haro outfit to the kind of shorts and t-shirts and what have you. That was the year that happened, and then it was on a bash guard as well. So what happened in 1990? So apart from the normal competitions, myself, let me think here. We did a TV commercial in Amsterdam for a yogurt drink called Fristy.
Yeah.
And that was Sean Clark and James Hudson and myself. We went over to do that. I got time off work for that, so so I was quite happy. So that was fun, going over there and proper big production in a kind of studio and what have you, with lots of kind of, it was a fun few days out there doing that. And I've got video footage of us, making that advert. Then I never saw the advert. And then a few months later, Brian Henderson, again, we used to always go down to his house. He'd had all the videos and stuff, but he had satellite TV. And I would be watching some Dutch TV channel, I don't know, but suddenly it came on, this Fristy commercial. So he recorded it, but only got it was only a 30-second commercial. Maybe I only saw 15 seconds of it. So that's all I saw. That's all I was seeing, finished advert. Up until a couple of years ago, where I thought, I wonder if we can find anything on YouTube with this TV commercial that we did. And I did find it, but it's really old and pixely, and it's really not particularly clear. But at least I got a copy, and I can see what it's like. But it would have been quite good to get an actual finished copy of the advert.
Well, what was you riding, ramp in that advert, or just flatland?
It was a quarter pipe, so it was a Vincent quarter pipe with a Fristy can spray painted on. So, so I was riding the quarter pipe. Sean Clark was doing flatland. James was also doing some stuff on the quarter pipe, and then at the end he jumped over a car, a Cadillac.
Okay. I thought there's not footage. You sent me that footage. No.
No.
There's a commercial in there, right?
Yeah, I think I sent you the commercial, but not the footage of behind it.
Okay. In that footage you sent me there's a run, I'm not sure what contest it is, and you eat shit doing a 540.
Right, yeah. So that was
did you not? It didn't look like you hurt yourself. Like, well, from the way you popped back up, but it did look like you hurt yourself, but not the way you carried on.
That particular day, I just did nothing but hurt myself. So it started. We were kind of me and Scott Mcnicholl. We kind of ridden our practice runs, what have you. So we were outside messing around, and there was a handrail. So I said, "Look, I'm going to stand up here and see if I can go on this handrail and just kind of slide off," because I'd never tried it before. So, and I had glasses at the time. So I pointed this handrail. I went to kind of slide off. The front peg slid off, but the back peg stayed on. So I just kind of slid off straight over the bars onto my face. And I didn't have a helmet on. My glasses bent and the lens fell out my glasses. And that was before the competition. So I'd hurt myself there. My glasses weren't sitting right. Then during the competition, I did this 540, front wheel hooked up, and I went straight down. So that didn't hurt too much.
Wow.
But I did a tail whip after that, and my leg got caught up in the...
Oh, yeah, that's it, yeah.
It was a half-hearted attempt when I see it, but I think I was just done that day. It was probably the worst competition run I've ever done. And I was thinking to myself at the time, maybe I'm done with this competition stuff because I'm just bouncing all over the place and not doing very well. So, yeah, that was Milton Keynes. That was... Okay. Yeah, that wasn't a good competition.
Yeah, I looked at that 540 and it looked like your worst case scenario, like clipping just as you think you've made it. Like, yeah.
It's the crowd noise. It's oh.
Yeah, and the guy filming, like he sort of like jumps, doesn't he? You can tell. Yeah, that was a rough one. And so what other did you ever ride in the circus?
No, I think I was asked if I wanted to do shows, but I did the thing in Monte Carlo in '88. Okay. But that was it. I wasn't too fussed on doing shows.
You didn't do like a tour like Jason Ellis and James and those guys, no?
Yeah, because for me it was a case of if you're doing that, if that's your job and you start to get fed up of it, that was my fear. So I just thought, no, I'd rather. That's not my job. It's I still ride because I enjoy it, not because it's to get money. So that was my thought process. So I never did any shows beyond Monte Carlo.
Okay. And what was the you did a show? Not a show. Sorry, you did a TV show. I can't remember what it was called, but with Rob Alton, Motormouth, was it? Yeah,
Motormouth.
That looked all right, actually. What was that like?
Yeah, I think that I'd never heard of that TV show. I can't remember. It was maybe the first series of it, but it was filmed in the same place that 73 had been filmed a few years earlier. So it was the same TV studios done in Maidstone. Okay. So at least this time it was inside rather than outside. But it was okay. It was okay. We had the ramp set up. The whole us being on the TV was to promote Rob's circus show. I can't remember what it was, but he was doing a circus show somewhere, so that's why we were on. So it was quite good. It was a bit of a struggle because I didn't have much of a run up for the ramp. Yeah, but there's enough room for Rob. But I kind of had a bit of a struggle, but it was fine. It was a bit of fun. It was an interesting show, just with the number of people that were on it. We had Kylie Minogue on it, Mark Wahlberg was on it. There was quite a few others, and of course they attract a ton of people. And as you're trying to go into TV.
Okay, yeah. I remember you saying last time, yeah.
It was
in the hotel.
Yeah, it was nuts. But that was a good show. So the interesting thing about that was, so obviously we spent time with Gabby Rosin during that show because we were doing a bit of filming and what have you. And then it was a couple of weeks after that I was down in Barrow and Furness riding there was a competition down there, I think a couple of weeks later. And I was going to be, I hadn't really ridden a spine too much, so I wasn't too familiar with it, but there was a competition, so we're messing around on it, and I thought, I'm gonna stay in the skate park. Did you ever go to the Barrow Furnace?
Yeah, I might have went to that one you're talking about, yeah.
I mean, it was a mucky old skate park, but when you're that age, you don't really care. It's just stay in the skate park rather than get a hotel. So anyway, I was riding, not doing anything particular, and then in my head, I was just popping out the mini ramp. I didn't have enough speed and fell back in. The bike landed at the bottom of the ramp, and then I fell on top of it. So the end of the handlebars went straight into my stomach, and it was just there was.
I remember the story.
Sorry,
I can remember the story. Yeah, I didn't know it was there though. I remember you got like a bar end that like was super damaging, like back then.
Yeah, it was there. It was there. So so that at that jam, I fell doing nothing particularly impressive at all. Completely perforated my intestines and all sorts. Just gave myself some real damage. But from the outside, it was just a scratch. But as soon as I did it, I couldn't breathe and I turned white. Wow. And I said to Scott Mcnicholl, I went down with him. I said, I think I need to go to hospital. He said, yeah, you look a bit white. So he took me to hospital. And basically they took one look at me, didn't x-ray me, didn't do anything, just says, oh, you've probably got bruised kidneys. You'll be fine, off you go. So I then had to get a hotel room because I was in such a state. Couldn't sleep a wink at night because I was in agony. And in the morning, I couldn't walk and breathe at the same time. So I had to go back to So I had to go to hospital again. And I went in and they're like, did we tell you to come back? We're like, no, but I can't walk and breathe at the same time. Wow. Something's wrong. So they x-rayed me, saw shadows or what have you, and then they had to basically open me up to see what was wrong with me. So that's where my whole intestines and everything had burst. It was pretty bad.
Well, what were you, internal bleeding?
Yeah, my intestines just burst. It was just, It was... Everything was burst.
That's crazy, because I remember the story of like you damaging yourself without a bar end being on the bars, like, but I didn't know it was at Barrow. I think I was at that one, yeah. So you didn't ride at all, yeah?
Didn't ride at all. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. I should have been in there longer, but I was so miserable. They thought maybe I should try and get home. So, but the reason I got onto that was, after a week of being in hospital, Gabby had heard that I was in hospital, so she sent me a get well card.
Oh, no way.
So I've still got that little card. It says, keep smiling.
Yeah, nice. That's good though. And then, like, so that's when, around this time, like, King of Concrete is getting like a big Scottish presence, right? You went down with those guys. So
I think they all went down in 1991, and I was going to go in 91, but I didn't. I'd literally just learned to drive and got a car, and I was all for driving down to Portsmouth. But I can't remember, for whatever reason I didn't. So I didn't go in 91, which is when Andy Burke, I think, won it that year.
Yeah, that's right.
But I went after that. So 92 onwards was when I started to go to King of Concrete.
Cool. Yeah, I remember Andy Burke sort of came out of nowhere. No one really knew who he was at that event, that first one. I think he won a couple more as well.
I think he probably did, yeah.
Yeah. And how was that, like, those early King of Concretes, with you guys all, like, convoying down, right? Because it seemed like there was about 20 of you. There's probably less, but...
Yeah, no, it was, I think, from 90... I remember going to 92, and there's a whole ton of us went down. 92, 90... It was 92 when I first went down, actually, yeah. So everyone was just meeting up, and have a recollection of we'd all went out, whatever night it was before, and we're trying to find the skate park. I can't remember whose car we were in, and I'm hanging out the back window vomiting round a roundabout. And it was such a big vomit that we had to go back round the roundabout to see how far round the roundabout the stew went. They were good. They were a good laugh. That whole weekend was about having a laugh, and that was it. That was the key part of that. Because I think maybe not the first year I went, 92, but certainly 93, we all showed up in suits, and we all went out and bought 3-piece suits and everything else just for a laugh to ride at the skate park.
I think I vaguely remember this, yeah. And was you still riding for Shiner at this point?
Yeah. So yeah, I kept getting bikes up till I think when did the Blamo come out? Did the Blamo come out in '96? I think it did.
I'm not sure. I thought it was earlier, but you might be right. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, I got bikes. The last bike I got was the Airmaster, and then which I think I got that 94, 95, and then after that was the Blamo, which I thought was an awful looking bike anyway. So I wasn't too fussed by that, but rather than actually speak to anyone to ask about it, I just thought for some reason it would just float its way to my, in my possession, that I'd get given one. But that didn't happen. So, because I went to the US in '95 and Jim Ford knew I was going over, so they were going to pay my entry fee.
All right.
So I thought, well, I'm still on Haro. That's all sorted. But when I got there, it was Matt Hoffman taking the registration. He said, Haro's supposed to be paying. And he's like, no, there's nothing here with your name against it. I'm like, oh, right, Jim Ford was told, and he said it's meant to be getting paid. I'll follow it up, it's okay. So he probably didn't know anything about it and probably never paid for anything. But in my head, that was all done anyway. But by '97, I still had this '95 Master that I was riding. And it was, it was getting a few years old. So I just thought at that point, Sandy was on standard. And he said, I'll get you a cheap standard if you want. So I just got a standard at that point. So I was getting free stuff up to probably '96. And then '97, I just gave up and just bought stuff.
Okay. And what Hoffman event was that? OKC?
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Okay.
I can't remember which. That's all I know. '95, right. Oklahoma.
What was that like?
Well, it was good. It was good. I hadn't been in an event like that before. But for myself, Sandy, and Chris Sales, we drove in Chrissy's Roach coach thing with a burst. Something was burst. I can't think of what it's called. So every time the car stopped, the radiator was burst. So you put the stuff in and gum up the hole, and as soon as you turned the car off, the radiator would burst. So we had to, and it's summer, and it's Oklahoma. So we were in this car with the heat in full blast to keep the engine cool. And it took us about 3 days. It was awful.
No way.
So when we get there, I think maybe I had a couple hours before I was meant to be competing, and I had never ridden anything like that before. I don't think I'd even built my bike up from coming off the plane. I just chucked it in the car. Okay. So my brakes weren't working or anything. So it was good. It was a good laugh. Didn't ride particularly great, but again, you didn't go there to compete. It was just for the whole experience of it. So it was a good experience. And Hoffman and all the proper pros were there.
Got to see the show,
yeah.
And that was your first trip to the US?
Yes.
Okay. So you went to stay at Bethlehem and then drove to that contest from there, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so when was when did you first start making videos?
Well, I got my first camera in 1990. So it was a cheap rubbish camcorder. It was the cheapest one you could buy because they were quite expensive at the time. So I just got one of them and just started filming stuff because we're doing all the TV stuff and what have you, and filming competitions and all that kind of stuff. So I just started filming that. The problem being is you couldn't really edit it because it was tape to tape.
Yeah.
So I would just film the stuff. So I've got a record of it. And then maybe a couple of years later, I started trying to edit tape to tape to just piece stuff together for the year. And then just start putting stupid stuff in it because we were up to stupid stuff anyway. So we just started putting that in the video. So I used to show it to everyone when they came through at Livingston. And Sandy said, you should sell these. And he's like, is anyone going to be interested in buying this? Oh yeah, definitely. So, 95, I thought, right, I'm going to piece something together and then try and sell that. So that's when I started doing proper videos, but not proper in any way, shape, or form.
What was the first one called?
The first one I kind of sold was Doug's Boz.
I think I saw that when I was in America one time. I think that there might have been a copy at Sandy's when I stayed there.
Well, yeah. So Sandy, I got a copy converted to the US format and gave it to Sandy, and everyone seemed to see it.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
If anyone came in the house, they saw it.
And it was quite long. Was it quite long, as I remember?
I think it was 45 minutes long.
Oh, not too bad. Yeah. Okay. For some reason, I thought it was long. And where do you go from there? Like,
what do you mean in videos?
Yeah. Like, what's the process?
Right. So I was just made a video, and I made lots of copies and just got a cover, sold it. If we went to Wakefield, for example, I've got some videos if you want to see that. When I sent a copy to Sandy, everyone seemed to see it, but obviously I wasn't selling any there. He was just letting everyone see it.
Yeah.
So, John Buultjens had moved to Australia at this point, so I sent him a copy, and he got that copy, and he made lots of copies. So he was selling it in Australia.
Okay.
So I think between Sandy showing everybody, John Buultjens being John Buultjens was selling loads of them everybody out in Australia.
Oh, right.
And then I think just going to the skate park around Wakefield and whatever things we were doing up here, it got seen there. So that was it. So it was, I think people still talk about that video. A lot of people seem to see it.
Yeah. I think I've seen two of them, but I definitely remember that as being one of them. Yeah. And how did you meet Sandy and John Buultjens?
So,
like, when did Sandy first come into it? And Gogo, you must have met Gogo at this point, right?
Right. So, yeah.
And there's three key characters.
So let me think here. So let's start with. So John Buultjens, I think I'm right in saying. So when we were going up to the factory up in Dundee, there was one time I was up. Again, I said I'd go up early and there was nobody there. So one person I happened to meet at this factory was this guy who later turned out to be John Buultjens. I didn't know who he was. So I was there on my own. Nobody else was there. And I think he must have rode past. And then he kind of... The reason I spoke to him was he was a friend of Scott Carroll. So he could talk about Scott Carroll. And like, yeah, I know Scott Carroll. So talking to him. And I think that's the first time I remember meeting John Buultjens.
Okay.
And then from that point, it was every time he went to Dundee, he would be about.
All right.
And that's how I initially met him. Sandy, he was just one of these folk is from Wishaw and Humaines, and sometimes he'd come through at the skate park. And it's quite bizarre because, so I kind of knew him but didn't know him. So that he posted a picture of the Bones Brigade at the skate park. I think it was 88. And he posted a picture of it, and I mentioned something to him. I'm sure it was at that one. Was this whatever year it was? And then he said, yeah, I think it was that year, or 88 or 89. I said, because I remember standing on top. I didn't go into the skate park because it was just full of skaters. I remember standing at the top of the hill with my friend Shay watching it. Then I looked at his picture, and I'm like, there's the hill. And then I zoomed in, and there's me and my friend Shay in Sandy's picture. I didn't even realize, when I was looking at it, I'm like, that's just nuts. So he's one of these faces. I might not necessarily have talked to him, but I just knew him because he was at the skate park. And I think probably from 1990 onwards, I'd maybe start going through to Glasgow because I could drive at that point. So I was working maybe through towards Glasgow, and on Friday I'd go through to Glasgow, meet up with Amos, Gary Forsyth, and go street riding, and then Sandy and the various other ones would kind of show up. So that's how I kind of got to know Sandy. He was always there, but actually when we started riding street and getting outside of Livingston, that's where I got kind of got to know a bit better. Gogo. Right, so do you know the Livy picture with the no-footed can with the pink tufts?
Yeah.
Right, Gogo's in the background of those pictures, but I didn't know Gogo at that time. And I think I'm right in saying the reason Gogo was there was because there was a race happening at the skate park, at the BMX track across from the BMX track. Sorry, across from the skate park.
Yeah.
So it was quite busy because there was lots of racers. So I think that's why he was over at the skate park. And what also happened that day was there was a little kid that used to go down from Livingston. He was a bit younger. And he was just a head case. You could tell him to go up and do a one-handed candy bar. He'd just go up and do a one-handed candy bar. He must have been about 8 or 9. He was just nuts. But he did racing. So he was over there racing, and he was with this guy. And he kind of stopped me and said, "Oh, this is my friend Chris," because they raced together. So that Chris was Chris Hoy. So he used to go together to the races with Chris Hoy. So he was there. If I'm remembering this correctly, that same weekend we did that photo shoot at the skate park, but they were there over at the BMX track.
All right.
So Gogo was there, but I didn't actually meet him. I think the first time I really met Gogo was Scott Timmins moved to Scotland. I think it was 1988. So we met Scott Timmins in 89 going to competitions and stuff. And it was from him moving to beside where Gogo was, and then kind of starting to go places together. And then with knowing Scott Timmins, he then, I think, tagged along Gogo and Kev and a few of the other ones. And I think that's how we met. So I think that was maybe 91. I think it was 91, I think.
Yeah. All right, nice. Yeah, because that scene, that's like the next phase, right? That's how I see it anyway. Like riding changes a lot in these little few years, and then those guys were the new dudes. I remember Sandy. The first time I saw Sandy was probably at that barrow contest where you skewered yourself. Was he at that? He had like purple, like woven hair or something. I remember.
Yeah.
And I remember I'd never seen him before that. Yeah, because he was quite distinct back then. But
yes.
Yeah. Oh, good. And who else used to ride with Scott Carroll? They're at the half pipe in Dundee, right? It was like 2 quarters. It looked like. Was that Scott Mcnicholl as well from there, or was he from Livy?
He's from Livy.
Okay.
Because we were at the same school. There was a few folk from Dundee, well, Broughty Ferry up Dundee way that we just ride with Scott, but Scott was just a different level to anybody else. So there were some other riders there that John Buultjens still, I think one of them was local, it was staying with him in the US recently. So, and they still pop up. If I go through unit 23, one of these, somebody will just pop up that I know from maybe Dundee, or he just, they're still about. So yeah, there was a kind of quite a skater scene and quite a lot of bikers up there. I just cannot recall a single name.
Okay. I've seen some footage of like, and there's like 3 or 4 guys like riding around. A couple of them look pretty decent. Yeah, so I just wondered if that was a little bit more of a scene than what was told. But
yeah, no, there was. And again, I've got footage at Scott's ramp. And there's quite a lot. It was just a kind of skate BMX type scene. Yeah. So
usual scene from the late 80s, really. I guess. Yeah. Nice. Do you know what happened to Scott? Like when he got out of riding,
Scott Carroll.
What he got into?
Well, see, this is another interesting part because this all links quite nicely. So when I was in hospital at Barrow, Sandy, David McGilvery, and I think a couple other people came to visit me before they left for that weekend, and someone gave me a snowboard magazine.
Okay.
Now, snowboard was quite new, I think, at the time. So I got, maybe a week later when I was not high out with tree and painkillers, I remember reading this snowboard magazine, and there's Scott Carroll snowboarding in this snowboard magazine.
Oh, no way.
Because that came out the blue. I didn't know he was doing any of that stuff. I just happened to read in this magazine, and that's Scott Carroll.
Yeah, and that's quite soon after, like, well, it's almost parallel to his BMX, right?
Yeah. Because Yeah, I think he'd moved down. I think I said before he moved down to Dorset, and then he just kind of vanished. And the next thing I heard, he was back up in Broughty Ferry again, but he just kind of went all quiet.
Okay. And what was he snowboarding in Scotland? I guess, right?
Must have been.
Okay. You don't even know. All right, no way. I didn't know anything about what happened to him next. Yeah.
Yeah, he that's the last time. He's snowboarding, and then I think he popped up in one of Grant's videos actually a couple of years after that. He had a green Airmaster up in Dundee or something. So he's still, I think it was back in Dundee, he was still just messing around, I think. Because I can't remember what BSD video it is, but he's river jumping in this green Master or green Airmaster or something, and Gogo's on his bike as well. So I think he was still riding, but just keeping a low profile.
Oh, no way. And then, so you're still riding, like you've ridden Livy throughout this whole time. You've just been a local there since you started riding.
Yeah. So still riding Livy. They started to open indoor parks. So at Livingston, there was a place called Croft Head, which was an indoor mini ramp, which was literally half a mile from the skate park. So in the winter, we started to have bike sessions there, maybe on a Wednesday night, maybe on a Sunday. Right. So we were riding there. So we'd have Gogo, Sandy when he was home, he'd be there. Big Egg Docherty, he was through. There was loads. It was a good scene. So I've got footage from that as well, from 93 to 94-5.
All right. I didn't know about that place at all, I don't think.
Yeah. No, that was a really good scene. It was great in the winter because obviously we
of course
can't ride an outdoor skate park. But round about then as well, so we had Wakefield. It had opened. So we were sometimes going down in Wakefield to ride that, 92, 93, when that first opened. And let me have a look. Yeah, and then it was riding the Glasgow with the Glasgow folks. So we'd maybe ride in the street and then maybe go stay with either Chris Rooney or Al Mcnaughton, and we'll stay at his flat, and then we'd all just go out and have a laugh and then get up the next day and go riding again.
All right. Oh, nice. And there was a couple of videos came out of Scotland as well, didn't they? Like early 90s, like Grant brought one out, Gary Forsyth, and they were just before you brought yours out, right?
Well, so the first one, the first one for me was Glasgow Underground.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
So that was amazing because that was like it's got us from Livingston on this video. That's just amazing.
I remember that was like from looking from the outside, that was definitely like a cool thing that happened like that when that video came out. Like I thought the name was cool as well. Mm-hmm. And I remember like we watched it and was like, oh, cool, fucking Scottish video, Scottish scene. Like we was into it, yeah.
Yeah, because I gave a lot, well, not a lot of the footage, but quite a bit of the footage is from me. So I gave that to Gary. So as soon as it was available, I need to get a copy. Can I get a copy? Yeah. So I drove through to Glasgow because I wanted a copy of that video. He still charged me £16 for it.
No way.
Well, that's my footage, yeah. £16. Should have been 20. Drove all the way through for that.
Oh, and what was that? 92, I would guess, right?
No, that
91,
was 91.
91, no way, yeah.
That was 91, yeah, because he brought another one out the year after called Get Up, which was 92.
Okay. I don't remember that one. I would have guessed I've seen it, but yeah. And then Grant brought one out, maybe not. Grant brought one out before that, maybe. Did he not bring one out before that?
I think he had one called Bless My Xerox.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Yeah, that might have been before.
Yeah, but then he I remember Grant came to London, and some of the footage from when he came here was on the next video that he made. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was Bless My Xerox, and I think it was Steel Rods, maybe, or was one.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, there might be one in between.
I think there was. Can't remember what it's called, but that was a good one.
Yeah.
whatever it was called.
Yeah. I remember because what's his name? That guy, little guy, Roger was in it a lot. When he came down with him, and I remember he had he used to write some good stuff. So yeah, I remember it. Yeah, and that was like Scottish scene was pretty good then. Like things are happening, like that was cool. And then, did you guys get any coverage in BMX Now when that came out?
BMX Now. I think Scott Mcnicholl did. I can't remember if I was ever in it, or I can't think of any other Scottish guys being in it. But I remember Scott Mcnicholl was in it.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, because that was short-lived, wasn't it? It was only about for a few issues, so.
Yeah, but I think when Dig started in '93, because there was kind of Scottish connection there with Ed and stuff, then we seem to get a lot more coverage in Dig.
All right.
When Dig started.
Yeah, I remember a picture of it. It might have even been. Was it Duff's ad? Someone had a Duff's ad in Livy. Was that? Am I right in that?
Yeah, that was Paul Robertson. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, then, I've got that on video with that photo shoot as well.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. I tell you, see if I had the time to go through and do stuff with this footage.
How much footage have you got?
Basically from 1990 through to today. I mean, what I used to do was get the footage and then edit it, because it was tapes, like a VHS-C. So I don't want to keep buying VHS-C tapes. You'd copy the tape to a normal VHS and then you reuse the tape.
Yeah.
So sometimes the quality is just awful. But and then sometimes I would edit it and then get rid of the original tape. So I've only got bits of stuff that I edited down, like the competition at, is it Northampton? What was the one that, I think it was maybe Northampton and Hoffman was at it?
Yeah, Radlands, yeah.
Radlands, that was it. So yeah, so I got that, edited it down, and then just recorded over the original footage that now would be like gold dust. But
shit, yeah, totally. Oh,
so yeah, I've got most footage, whether it's in edited form or not, from 1990 onwards. Anything I filmed is generally kept.
And who was filming the stuff from the 80s then?
That was Mark Young.
Okay.
So he got a camera in 87, so all the stuff that was from 87, 88, a lot of UKBFA stuff from 88, the World Cup 88, and then I think maybe some stuff in 89. All of that stuff would have been Mark.
All right. Because that's gold as well. How much of that is about still?
Well, I keep seeing new. I think I said before. There's new stuff that I've seen and I've got that I didn't think anyone else had. It suddenly appears.
Yeah.
So he did give it to key people, and how much of it's still available, I don't know till it shows up with Scott Milne's been given it and he's edited it and put it out there. But there was a lot. I mean, I've still got stuff from most UK BFA contests in '88. So there's loads of stuff from Alfreton, Woking. I mean, there's stuff I could basically put 88 UK BFA series. I could probably do an edit of each competition, I think, from the footage I've got. And it's just getting the time to do that. But there's and the quality is obviously not the best. And sometimes some of the tapes I had, I've got 3 tapes, VHS tapes worth of the 88 World Cup, the Tizer World Cup.
Yeah.
And 2 of the tapes had mold on them. So I put them in the video to digitize them, and then they wouldn't play because the tapes are all mold because they were kept in Brian Henderson's loft in a wooden box, in a cardboard box.
Oh, wow.
So I've managed to clean them. However, I've kind of wasted my video player trying to get them to play in the first place. So I'm hesitant to put them back in another video player till I know they're going to play and they're not going to mess it up.
How do you clean them?
I can't remember the solution, like an acetone. You do it bit by bit. So you pull out the tape, get some swap stuff, this acetone, and then just... What,
a 3-hour tape?
Well, the mold was only at it maybe took me half an hour to do the bit that had the mould.
Okay, wow.
But if it's the full tape, then it's up to you if you want to spend your whole life doing that.
Oh man. Yeah, so what else, what other key things for you happened in the 90s? Like, you still riding you still ride high level now, but like, how do you keep, does it seem dangerous riding now? Like how much more dangerous does it seem now doing like bike riding than it was then?
The problem now is I get hurt without doing anything. So I currently so let's say over the last 10 years, I've torn the meniscus in my right knee 3 times, and only one of them was due to riding.
Okay.
One was I wasn't doing anything; it just happened. And then the third time, something just ripped to my knee, and I was at the gym. So it just happens. And then my left knee at the moment, I was getting off a plane about 2 months ago, just trying to get off the plane, walking in a hurry because I was trying to get to a car, and something just went in my left knee. So I'm getting hurt now, but it's not through riding; it's just through moving.
Human wear and tear. Oh man.
So that for me now is when I'm thinking. So I'll say to Gurley, I want to do something. Can you come and take a picture? All I'm thinking is, what can I do to not get hurt? So if something goes wrong here, how am I going to get out of it? And I now think what can go wrong in advance rather than focusing on doing the trick like you used to do and not think about getting hurt.
Yeah, okay.
You never used to think about it.
Yeah, interesting. And what are them tricks that you can do without getting hurt then? You get hurt doing anything, it seems like. Yeah.
Well, it's just stuff that, like look backs, for example. I hadn't been able to do a look back for a long time, and I just thought, I just can't do them anymore. And then John Buultjens gave me this Haro Master, the new one back in. He was over showing this Haro Master off, and he got me on it and said, ride it. So it wasn't until I rode that I suddenly realised the reason I couldn't do look backs wasn't because I can't do them. It was the bike I was riding, because as soon as I got on that, I could do them again. It was bizarre. I don't know why. I don't know if it was the angles or the height of the bar or something, but suddenly I could do them again. But I don't do them willing. I've got to build up to it. So maybe if Gurley come through and take a picture, then I'll work up to doing one.
Well, I wonder what made that easier. What bike did you have before that you couldn't do it on?
A Pantera, I think. Fly Pantera, would that be right?
Okay. Could be, yeah.
I don't know if maybe the front end was, I don't know. When I got on that Haro, it just seemed higher at the front. Maybe the whole angles were completely different to the Pantera, and I think maybe it was just the whole angles of that bike, because it was a few years old, so maybe it wasn't up to date with the.
All right. Gosh, weird though, that, yeah. And what? Yeah. So what if you go riding now? Like, what does it involve? Like what would you go out to? What sort of frame of mind do you go out with? Like,
well, the first, I probably just go down to the park, and if it's got too many kids with scooters, I'll put the bike back in the car and go home, because that's not even worth the hassle. So a lot of the time, if I want a proper session, I'll get up or I go down to the skate park for 8 o'clock in the morning when it's going to be quiet or dead. So a few times, 2020, after the whole lockdown thing, and I got that black master with the pink tufts, that repop, I said to Dave Gurley, come through and we'll shoot some photos. And I got him through at 7 in the morning, because it's the only way it would be dead. And it's the only way I can get focused enough to do what I need to do without worrying about kids flying out the side and what have you. Because as soon as you're focusing on where the kids are, you can't focus on what you're doing.
Yeah,
so
that's right, yeah.
It's got to be, if I'm actually focusing on doing something, it's got to be dead so I can completely focus on what I'm doing.
Yeah. All
And
right.
that's the
Yeah, 'cause-
problem. If you go down during the day or in the evening, it's you're too busy looking at kids and scooters and of trying to avoid them. So I'm now very much risk averse.
Yeah, 2020, 2021 and 2022 were terrible years for skate park, weren't they? They was just busy, fucking rammed, like the worst I'd ever seen them, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you still do them cans the same as you used to?
Yeah.
The one-footed ones, yeah.
The top side ones are the...
No, just the one-footed. I was looking at them the other day and being like, "What a fucking badass can."
No, yeah, I can still do. I can still do them. In fact, the last time Dave was taking pictures, we got a good can from that. I'll send that on to you.
Cool, yeah.
I think that was maybe a couple of years ago. Do you know what it was? Maybe it was last year. Because, as I said, I'm now prone to hurt myself. So a couple of years ago, I separated my shoulder. So that kind of put me out for the summer. Last year, I was okay. And then this year, I've knackered my left knee. So I think it's a couple of years since I had a can picture.
What have you got to have that knee operated on? Or what's the story there?
I'm trying physio, but it's not working. So I might go and see about surgery. I was trying to avoid that, but if it's another summer and you can't ride, I might just go for it. Yeah.
Okay. What do you do now? Like, what's your daily? What do you do for work?
So I work for a medical device company. So I run the quality department or set the quality function up. So I'm doing a lot of stuff. I'm either doing a lot of work at home, so just on a computer, or I now work in Glasgow. So I jump on a train through to Glasgow. And right in the centre of Glasgow, so it's quite handy that way.
Oh, nice. How is that? All right. You find that all right doing that stuff? Or?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
And what was that? What else we got here? What have I missed? Have I missed anything?
Right. Let's have a look. So we've got videos, backyard, King of Concrete, America. I'm trying to think. I was in Australia in '96.
Okay.
Yeah, '96. So I was went to Australia to live with John Buultjens for a bit.
Oh, no way.
So he moved there out in '95, and I was meant to go out and stay there for maybe 3 months because I was at college and I was at uni at that point. So it was during the summer. So I went out. Obviously, it's there winter. But it was one of these things. You're with someone constantly, day and night.
Yeah.
You're like when people go into the big brother house, everyone's all friendly, and 2 weeks later they just hate each other.
Yeah.
So I came back after 6 weeks because I just had enough.
Okay.
Not specific. John's asked me about this because I came back and I hate John. I never want to see John again. And he's like, and I didn't see him for years. And then he just kept trying to contact me. I'm like, right. He clearly wants to speak to me, so I'll speak to him again. And it was a few years ago. He's like, what did I do that, annoyed you? And he's like, was it this? Was it that? And I'm like, I actually don't know what it was. It wasn't until you think back. It wasn't one specific thing. It was just everything.
Yeah.
Because you have no break from something. You know what I mean? It's just like that whole thing. It's like you stay with them, you go out with them, you do everything with them, and you're like, just a break every now and again. But I think that's so. I came back after 6 weeks. I should have been out there for longer. And then I went to America for the rest of the summer. I just went and stayed with Sandy. So that was good to be out in Australia. It was they had ramps everywhere, which was amazing to me. Half pipe, everything, concrete skate parks. That was '96. But that was quite amazing. Saw a lot of good riders out there.
Was that? Did they still have skate parks left over from back in the day when you went, or was it all new stuff? Oh, it was, yeah.
They had concrete bowls and all sorts. It was amazing. Have you seen this Mayhem video?
I have. Yeah.
So a lot of the skates, the ramps and stuff in that is Melbourne. So I wrote a lot of that stuff because when that was, the video footage they show of that was around the same time. So, like the Paran half pipe, all that kind of stuff. There was loads to ride, loads.
Yeah, what do you make of that video? That all this mayhem.
I really liked it. I really liked it. A bit one-sided from the.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But it was enjoyable. I did find it funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if it was a bit more rounded with views, it would have been a much better film. Because if you don't know any better, you just think, "Oh, that's really unfair to him." But obviously, that's one-sided story.
Yeah. And actually, have you ever spun a 900?
No.
Okay.
That was
the theme of that, wasn't it? So
it's one of these ones. I know I can do it. I just haven't done it, and it's one of these ones I've always wanted to try it, but I just see when it comes to doing it, I just mentally can't do it because my thinking was if you can do a 360, you can do a 540. Because for me, it's a similar spin. So if you can do a 720, you can do a 900. It's just one of these ones I've always wanted to do, and I've just never done it. And the way I get hurt these days, I probably won't. But
yeah, that's a definite one for getting hurt. But yeah, I was going to say I've seen you spin plenty of 720s without much problem. So yeah, because I wanted to see they're doing 1080s and all sorts. I did everything possible to try and get beyond the 900 jump, and just couldn't do it. Maybe the ramps were just not high enough. But I mean, I could really spin, but just could not get this, the height to get a 1080 jump. But now they're just doing it as if it's nothing. Yeah, but then that's what happens, isn't it? Progression, different bike, different geometry on the bike, different stuff to learn it on. It's all quite in their favour now. So, and how do you see BMX now? Is there stuff about BMX that you don't like now, and what stuff appeals to you and what stuff doesn't appeal to you, if anything?
I don't know. It's like I just can't get beyond what I'm seeing them do. It's nuts. Because I thought I was doing well into a foam pit in 1999 doing 360 backflips. I thought that was I'm still I can still do this stuff, and I see what they're doing now, and it's just beyond. I can't get my head around how they do it. It's just literally like watching video game footage. It's just nuts. And then you think of stuff that you would be messing around saying, "Oh, it'd be good if you could do this," thinking that'll never be done. And then they're not only doing stuff that you just suggested as a joke, they're going beyond that.
Yeah,
it's just I can't get my head around it. I cannot get my head around how people can nose wheelie and do all sorts of crazy things like that without a front brake. That's beyond physics to me.
But do you like all that fiddly stuff that they do, like the spinning round and multiple don't really know what's going on? What do you think of that? Do you like that, or you don't care? Or?
Well, it's just more of the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
You mean a multiple tail whip 540?
Yeah, the stuff that you can't really work out unless you slow it down.
Slow it down, yeah. I'm not saying it's rubbish, but it's not. I don't have the same appreciation for that. Someone get up and did a massive, big, stalled no-hander.
Yeah. Same.
But it's some of this stuff is just nuts. And it wouldn't have been possible on the ramps that we had. If you look at this mega ramp stuff and all these airbags and cushions and stuff, it's helpful, but it's cheating, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a difficult one. Yeah, is it cheating or isn't it? I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know what to think of it really.
Well, 94, myself, Grant Smith, and a few years up in Aberdeen, we thought we're going to learn backflips. So we had a wooden ramp, it literally was a little ramp. We had an old bed mattress that we put on top of it.
Yeah,
and that's
it. Yeah.
Backflips.
That was how everyone learnt them back in the 90s.
And the ramp, it must have been 5 foot high? It wasn't high.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was it though, wasn't it? second-hand mattress as well, one that you'd find somewhere, like not even your own mattress. Horrible.
Yeah, I used mattress found in front of someone's house. They were just skipping.
There's plenty of them about. And what stuff like motivates you to ride now?
Do you know what I've tried to do is a video edit for the ride on.
Oh yeah.
Thing. I thought that's what keeps me trying. I'm going to try this for the video, but the problem is every year I get hurt. So it's just a messing around video because I'm hurt, or it's I want to do something, but no matter how hard I try, I don't actually pull it. But that's one thing. It kind of tries to keep me pushing myself, is to try and get like a little edit put together. And even without that, I do try and put a Livingston edit together every year. Just stuff I've filmed there, not just to me, of everybody down the skatepark. Okay. So I filmed a lot last year. I've put one out, I think, every year since 2000. Sorry, 2020, not 2000. Okay. And I filmed a lot last year, but I still haven't had a chance to sit and edit together. So I've filmed nothing this year because I've got a sore knee, so I haven't actually ridden down the park much at all. So I'll be lucky if I get a video this year, and maybe by the end of this year I'll have last year's video ready.
Oh man, you think you're not going to be able to ride this year? What?
I really don't know. I'm not sure. If I do, it'll be later in the summer, and it will be taking it easy, I think.
Oh, rubbish, man.
Maybe.
Sorry to hear that. Lame. But yeah, I mean, unless I've missed some key things out, I mean, we're pretty good. I'm good for. If you've got more to say, I'm good to sit here and listen because there's a few other key things
over the years of folk that I kind of rode with. So the key thing more recently is, so in 1999 I moved down to Yorkshire for a couple of years. So I was staying round about Skipton, Ilkley from 99 to 2002. So I did quite a bit of riding down there. So the guys it was quite interesting because I'd moved down there in 99, didn't really know anybody, because again, it was for work. And I was speaking to big Ed Docherty, and I was just saying, I've moved here. And he said, there's a guy that does the T1 website. He lives there. I'm like, does he? Yeah, Keithley. I'm like, yeah, that's just down the road. Yeah, there's a guy there that does the T1 website, which I thought was bizarre. Yeah. So I said, give me his details. So he sent me the details of Will Love. So Will Love.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
He just lived down the road. So he was a rider just local to me. And then, so I gave him a call, and then we kind of met up and we started riding there's a whole ton of bikers there. So James Welsh is a key one that I used to see all the time. And another rider that we used to ride with all the time, who is a big name in mountain biking, is Chris Ackrig.
Okay.
I've never heard of him in terms of mountain biking, but he was there all the time, and he was really, really good. And Ed Tongue as well. They were really kind of good riders. Kind of, I don't know how you put it. They were good, kind of street riders. And I used to ride with them at Ramp Works on a Wednesday evening. We'd go to Ramp Works, maybe to Darwin, or maybe up to Ape, up at...
Okay, yeah, on a Redcar or something, was it?
Yeah, Turbo Tash up in Redcar.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until years later, I'm watching some stuff on mountain biking, and there's Chris. And he's some massive big deal in mountain biking.
Oh, no, don't even know that name, no.
No, but you've heard of Danny McCaskill.
Yeah.
Well, Chris is one of Danny McCaskill's heroes.
Oh, no way.
And it's just nuts. Like, I used to ride with them all the time, just down the road, the local Skipton skate park. But it was just quite nuts because there's just a small scene, but they're a really good bunch of riders, street riders. We used to go to the skate parks and stuff, and then there's a couple of them have made kind of big influence in the mountain biking scene.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, no worries. I think I remember when you'd moved out of Scotland. I don't know why, but did you used to ride Wakefield a little bit at this point?
Yes.
As well?
Okay. Yes. So that's why I thought that'd be amazing, because I used to ride Wakefield all the time. Oh, it's a short distance from there, so I'll be able to ride Wakefield all the time. Unfortunately, by the time I actually moved there, the big Wakefield skate park had shut and they'd moved to some other little crappy location.
All right.
So it wasn't even like it was when I used to go down every weekend. So I went to that new one once, didn't know anybody, and it was rubbish. It was just a small. So yeah, I had high hopes when I moved down, but it didn't turn out to be what I'd hoped for.
No way. So you probably ain't going to be able to shoot this photo that you was talking about last time this year then, the old no-foot can-can.
Well, I don't know. I've not got high hopes. So what I did do in 2020, I did an edit, right, of the Haro, the pink wheels.
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
That one against 1990. So I was trying to kind of redo everything I'd done in 1990. And that was 5 years ago. So I'm thinking, if I can wait another 5 years, I can do it in 5 years.
Wow.
So 1990 versus 2030. I just don't think I'm alive to do that, though.
Yeah, that would be impressive if you could bust the no-foot can-can then. Possible, I guess, but...
Well, we'll see what happens. But I do want to, if nothing else, I want to recreate that no-foot can-can. If there's nothing else I do, that would be a good one to finish with.
Yeah, nice, man. That was quite... I mean, at the time when that came out, I remember we was quite buzzing on that as well. Because I don't think you had a picture in a mag for a while. And then suddenly you was doing that, and it was quite like... It was on new terrain and stuff. Not new terrain, but new to us seeing it. I don't think we'd seen you at Livy before, so we'd only seen you at BFA pictures and stuff.
Yeah, because I think that magazine, that particular issue, I had, I think, at least 2 or 3 pictures in maybe.
Yeah.
Which is unusual for me. As you say, I don't think I was in magazines particularly a lot up to that point. So yeah, that was interesting. Having all these pictures in the same issue, I was just a bit nuts.
Well,
especially when you're riding for Haro wearing a Converse t-shirt.
Oh, is that what you had on? Yeah, I remember you had Vision shoes, right?
Yeah. So now you'd be all over that, but then you're like, well, he's just taking some pictures. It doesn't mean it's going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, if you're good with that, I'm good with that. We've done the list of riders that we needed to mention as well. Just making sure that we've done that. Yeah. But yeah, thanks a lot for coming on, man. That was fucking really enjoyable story. Thanks for listening. We've got a Patreon page, so if you could show us any support, we'd be most grateful. The link's below. A lot of work goes into these shows, so anything you could do would be much appreciated. Thank you.